Chapter 178. The rewards this time are not bad. Zhu Tianhong nodded and said to Yi Tianyun, "The rewards for the top 3 are very good. As long as you can get into the top 3, whatever rewards you get will be yours. I won't touch anything." Yi Tianyun nodded. This was one of his conditions. If he refused, then don't blame him for being impolite. After a while of discussion, Li Tianlong finally began to announce the content of the competition. "Well, that's all for the rewards. Now, I will announce the content of the first round, the strength of the divine inscription." Li Tianlong glanced at the contestants and said in a deep voice, "Drawing divine inscriptions requires speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. It cannot be too slow and there cannot be any deviation. The mental strength released must also be powerful. Otherwise, it will lead to failure." The content of the first round is to compare the strength of the divine inscription. The higher the strength, the more impact it can withstand. I believe everyone is clear about this. Generally, divine inscriptions are used on defensive equipment to withstand attack. Later, I will send martial artists of different levels to attack. The longer one can withstand the attack, the higher the score. Try your best to study the divine inscription in this area. Don't focus on the grade, just the longer you can withstand the attack, the better. Li Tianlong emphasized on the strength of the divine inscription. The stronger the divine inscription, the better. Ding. Random chain mission triggered, successfully completed the first round of the competition. Reward: 500,000 experience points, 1,000 divine inscription proficiency points. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. Interesting. I can trigger this kind of mission and increase my divine inscription proficiency. Not bad. After everyone heard this, their eyes lit up. The content of the competition was quite fair. The strength of the divine inscription on defensive equipment was a kind of enhancement effect. Even a piece of iron, strengthened by a powerful divine inscription, might not be weaker than a spiritual weapon. It might even be stronger than an ordinary spiritual weapon. This was the strength of divine inscriptions. Otherwise, the status of divine inscriptionists would not be so high. The first round is a competition of strength. It is an extremely basic divine inscription. Zhu Tianhong nodded and asked Yi Tianyun, "This shouldn't be a problem for you, right?" "There won't be a problem." Yi Tianyun smiled calmly, his calm tone filled with confidence. Zhu Tianhong nodded his head. As long as one was a divine inscriptionist, they would all know about this. After all, this was the elementary level of divine inscriptions. If one didn't even know about this, then there was nothing more to say. However, there wasn't much meaning to just being able to draw first-grade defensive divine inscriptions. There was no way he would be able to get a high score. Although Li Tianlong said that he didn't need a grade, did he really not need a grade? He only said that the grade of the divine inscription wouldn't add any points, but for a higher grade divine inscription, the resistance would undoubtedly be stronger. Very quickly, they distributed all kinds of defensive equipment. There were armors, shields, and the like. These defensive equipment were distributed one by one, and they could choose it themselves. Most people chose the shield as it was easier to carve the runes on it. Li Tianlong nodded his head gently after everyone had received their defensive equipment. Everyone has received their defensive equipment. The time limit is 2 hours. Those who exceed the time limit will be eliminated. I hope everyone will make good use of the time. As soon as the sound of his voice faded, Li Tianlong signaled the deacon beside him to turn the hourglass upside down. The sand started to flow rapidly. When the sand stopped flowing, it meant that the competition had ended. Those who didn't complete the divine inscription would be eliminated. Although the competition was based on the points system, if one didn't even finish inscribing the divine inscription, how could they still have the qualifications to compete? Hence, even if they inscribed a trashy divine inscription, it was still better than not being eliminated. That would be the most humiliating thing. After the hourglass was turned upside down, All the participants took out the divine inscription brush that they were most proud of and started to inscribe their divine inscriptions. Inscribing divine inscriptions wasn't an easy task. Although 2 hours seemed like a lot, in reality, it wasn't a lot. According to the low-grade divine inscriptions, they could at most fail once. If they failed twice in a row, it would mean that they would be eliminated, because there wasn't enough time to inscribe a third time. Immediately after, everyone focused on inscribing the divine inscriptions, not daring to slack off. Time was really too tight, there was simply no time to do anything else. Tianyun's eyes flickered as he also focused on inscribing the divine inscriptions. He couldn't lose here, he had to get into the top 3. They didn't have any free time, but the various clans outside the arena had more time and started to criticize them. Zhu clan head, how many helpers did you invite this time? The Wang clan head couldn't bear the loneliness anymore and asked, I seem to have heard that you invited 2 divine inscriptionists with pretty good standards? Zhu clan head replied in a deep voice, that's right, we invited 2 helpers. Is there a problem? There's no problem, it's just that I invited 2 helpers, they're really not bad. Unfortunately, I can only invite 1 helper, the number of helpers is really too much. His tone didn't feel like he was at a disadvantage at all. Instead, there was a sense of arrogance in his tone. There was a hidden meaning in his words. As expected, a clan head at the side interjected, Wang clan head, what you said is wrong. You only invited 1 helper, but he seems to be from the divine inscription manor, right? As for the 2 helpers you invited, I have no idea where they came from. Are they as famous as the divine inscription manor? Is that so? I thought Zhu clan head also invited a few helpers from the divine inscription manor. For example, that young man. Sending him up at such a young age, could it be that he's not from the divine inscription manor? Wang clan head laughed in disdain. If he's not from the divine inscription manor, do you dare to invite him up to help? Wang clan head, you can't speak such nonsense. Although I've never been to the divine inscription manor, I've never seen such a young disciple. Hence, I dare to conclude that he's not from the divine inscription manor, the clan head mocked. This echoed each other, causing Zhu clan head's expression to sink. They were basically teaming up to mock him. They often had conflicts with the Wang clan. This was just the beginning, and they were already provoking him. Wang clan head, do you think that the championship this time is already in your bag? Zhu clan head coldly snorted. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. I didn't say that, it's just that my chances are slightly higher. Wang clan head laughed. How was this humble? On the contrary, it was despicable to the bone. I wonder what Zhu clan head, what rank do you think you'll obtain? If the chances were higher, it meant that they would be able to obtain the championship. Even if they didn't obtain the championship, they would at least be within the top 3. With the assistance of the divine inscription manor, the result would naturally be different. I don't know what rank I'll obtain, but I'm sure it won't be any worse than your Wang clan. Zhu clan head similarly didn't have much confidence in his heart. However, he couldn't possibly admit defeat here. Hence, he had to endure no matter what. Oh, then I'll have to wait and see. Wang clan head coldly laughed. He knew that Zhu clan head wouldn't lower his head and admit defeat. As long as the final result wasn't determined, they wouldn't admit defeat. This was the same as before. Zhu clan head had to endure no matter what, but in the end, he was still at the bottom. Chapter 179. While there was friction, time flew by, and very quickly, someone had completed their divine inscription. The first to finish was none other than the disciple of the divine inscription manor, Linley. He was the first participant to finish inscribing a divine inscription. This caused the eyes of the crowd to brighten. As expected of a genius from the divine inscription manor, to be able to finish so quickly. Wang clan leader, the helper you found this time around is indeed of a shocking standard. He was the first to finish. The clan leader beside him flattered. Who doesn't know the name of the divine inscription manner? If they can't even do this, how can they be considered as one of the elites among the third-grade powers? The Wang clan leader laughed, feeling extremely comfortable. He didn't forget to glance over at Zhu Tianhong, wanting to see what his expression was like. His expression was extremely gloomy. One couldn't help but admit that their speed was much slower than the others. The few people they invited, including Yi Tianyun, were all extremely slow. They couldn't catch up at all, and the disparity between them was obvious. Lin Li from the divine inscription manor was coincidentally beside Yi Tianyun. When he saw Yi Tianyun carefully inscribing the divine inscription manor, he laughed out loud. I wonder which clan sent him here. He's so young, yet they dared to send him here. I wonder what grade he is. Is he qualified to be a second-grade divine inscriptionist? He couldn't help but mock when he saw how slow Yi Tianyun was inscribing. His eyes were filled with disdain. From the looks of it, Yi Tianyun was still inscribing a first-grade divine inscription. Yi Tianyun didn't even bother with him. He continued inscribing at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. Very quickly, the majority of the participants had completed their divine inscriptions. The few people Zhu Tianhong brought here had also finished. Only Yi Tianyun was still lagging behind. This situation caused Zhu Tianhong to furrow his brows. He had no idea what Yi Tianyun was doing. Strange, what is that brat doing? Why is he so slow? Attendant Lu couldn't help but comment. He was extremely unhappy with Yi Tianyun, but when he saw how slow Yi Tianyun was, he couldn't help but feel even more worried. They only hoped that Yi Tianyun wouldn't be able to enter the top 3, but that didn't mean that he couldn't even enter the top 10. Elder Yi, what are you doing? It looks like it's rather difficult to carve it? Asked Zhu Yuxuan. Don't worry, Elder Yi has his reasons. Zhu Yue smiled calmly, not worried at all. She had complete trust in Yi Tianyun and believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely win. Finally, Yi Tianyun finished the last stroke. He put away the divine rune brush and said with a smile, "Not bad." When he said that it was not bad, the others beside him revealed looks of contempt. This was not bad. He was clearly at the bottom, but he was still praising him. Wasn't this feeling of self-satisfaction a little too much? When the last grain of sand flowed out from the hourglass, the time limit for the first round was finally up. The attendants beside Li Tianlong walked down from both sides and started to inspect the participants one by one. No one was eliminated, everyone had completed their divine inscriptions. No matter how simple the divine inscriptions were, he had to inscribe them. Otherwise, he would truly lose face. Then, they began to test the items according to the order of completion. The first item they picked up was Lin Li's armor. Because he was the first to finish, they started the test from his armor. After picking it up, the attendants checked it and said, "Third grade defensive divine inscription, start the test now." Third grade defensive divine inscription immediately caused an uproar. As expected of a disciple of the divine inscription mansion, the current level he showed was at least at the level of a third-grade divine inscription master. Then, several other attendants also picked up third-grade divine inscriptions, but the number was very small. They were all second-grade divine inscriptions. The first divine inscription that Lin Li inscribed completely crushed their level. Bang! Then, the attendants began to attack the armor. First, they used their body refinement realm cultivation to attack. When they couldn't break the armor, they slowly increased the armor layer by layer to see what level the armor could withstand. In the end, with one punch, Lin Li's armor was broken, showing the level of 7th level of spirit refinement realm. This armor was originally very ordinary, it was just ordinary iron level, but it was able to withstand to the 7th level of spirit refinement realm. It was really extraordinary. Soon, the test results of other people were out. The level was not high, most of them were at 4th or 5th level of spirit refinement realm. Some were even at first or second level of spirit refinement realm. The strength shown by Linley caused an uproar in many families. This was really a high level, far beyond the others. The level of Divine Inscription Mansion's disciple is really high, far ahead of other participants. Being able to let Linley become a guest of Wang Family Head, Wang Family Head's ability is not small. The patriarch next to him continued to flatter. It's just SOSO, Wang Family Head said modestly, but he was already smiling from ear to ear. He couldn't help but look at Zhu Tianhong. His eyes were full of sarcasm. The first level already has such an advantage, what if they continue to compete? The Zhu family will be left far behind. Zhu Tianhong could only remain silent, because he knew that he couldn't refute anything, it would only make his face more swollen. It's just that he felt very strange. Isn't Yi Tianyun a 4th grade Divine Inscription Master? Why is his performance so slow? Soon, the results were quickly tabulated. Some even lasted until the 7th or 8th level of Body Refinement Realm. It was really too low level. Not to mention the level of Spirit Refinement Realm, it was really not enough. Not to mention the effect, most of the Divine Inscriptions were 2nd grade, 3rd grade Divine Inscriptions were very few. Even if there was a 3rd grade Divine Inscription, there was still a big gap between them and Linley. They were both 3rd grade Divine Inscriptions. How could there be such a big gap? This depends on one's engraving technique and the effect of the Divine Inscription pen. The combination of the two can play a good effect. Finally, it was the Zhu family's turn. The deacon checked for a while and judged. 2nd grade Divine Inscription. Immediately after the test began, the level was still considered to be in line, not particularly outstanding. Zhu family head, the level of the person you invited is not bad, Wang Family Head said with a smile. This time, it won't be like last time, right? The meaning of this sarcasm was very obvious. It was almost equivalent to pressing Zhu Tianhong to the ground. Humph! Zhu Tianhong snorted coldly. He was too lazy to respond. The gap between them was obvious. What else could he say? Finally, it was Yi Tianyun's turn. The deacon came over to check and said, "1st grade Divine Inscription?" 1st grade Divine Inscriptions were not surprising. There were people who had 1st grade Divine Inscriptions, but that was because they were forced to do so. They failed several times, and seeing that there was not enough time, they could only use this method. The score was a little low, but at least they would not be eliminated. However, from the beginning, Yi Tianyun did not fail. This point was noticed by everyone. They thought that it would at least be 2nd or 3rd grade Divine Inscriptions. They did not expect that after so long, it would only be a 1st grade Divine Inscription. As soon as the words came out, the audience was stunned, and then Wang Family Head laughed. 1st grade Divine Inscription, after so long, you are telling me it is a 1st grade Divine Inscription? Is he here to participate in the competition? I suspect it is a joke. Thinking about it, he looks so young. At most he is a 1st grade Divine Inscriptionist. It is not surprising at all that he can inscribe a 1st grade Divine Inscription. Zhu Tianhong's face sank. This was still the realm of a 4th grade Divine Inscriptionist? Haha, as expected, your level is only at the level of a 1st grade Divine Inscription. Little fellow, don't mess around in this kind of show, go back and drink milk. If you don't have the ability, don't come out and embarrass yourself. Linley laughed. After so long, it was only a 1st grade Divine Inscription. He laughed on the spot. Chapter 180. Many people were already prepared for Yi Tianyun's level, but they didn't expect it to be a 1st grade Divine Rune. They were all stunned, and then they burst into laughter. With so many people watching, it was really embarrassing. Everyone's level was not low, and he only inscribed a 1st grade Divine Rune after such a long time. It was really embarrassing. After all, he had just entered the arena, and everyone thought that Yi Tianyun's level would definitely not be high. They didn't expect it to be so low. Test it. Yi Tianyun gestured to the deacon to test his Divine Rune. From the beginning to the end, He didn't even look at Linley. The deacon shook his head. A first-grade divine rune was so weak that it could be broken with a casual punch. Why would there be a need to test it? If it weren't for the rules, he would have directly given it a score of 1. When the others saw Tianyun's calm expression, they also shook their heads. Where did this kid come from? How could he still be so calm? Bang! The deacon punched heavily at Tianyun's armor. The power was equivalent to the 5th level of the body refinement realm. After the hit, the divine rune on it slightly fluctuated, but it actually did not break. This result made the deacon stunned. It was impossible. Generally, a first-grade divine rune could be broken with this level of cultivation. The others were slightly stunned. They didn't expect that he could still persist. The divine rune brush he used seems to be of a higher level? It's at least a spiritual level. Someone immediately saw that the divine rune brush in Tianyun's hand was a spiritual level divine rune brush. Everyone suddenly realized that it was the divine rune brush. No wonder it couldn't be broken with a punch. It's really a waste of this divine rune brush. Using this divine rune brush to draw a first-grade divine rune is really a waste. Yes, if I used it, it would definitely be stronger. But now it is used to draw a first-grade divine rune. It's really funny. They all shook their heads and felt that it was a great waste. No matter what, they all thought that the Zhu family was too funny. They let a low-level person go on stage and lose face. No wonder, then I will continue to strengthen it. The deacon nodded and increased the strength of the divine rune brush to the 7th level of the body refinement realm. Bang! He punched it, but it still didn't break. This made the deacon frown. How could it not be broken even after this? That was because the divine rune brush's effects were too good. Continue to strengthen it. Bang! Under the 7th level of the body refinement realm, the defensive divine inscription on the armor was not broken. This time, the others were all stunned. Even with the support of the divine rune brush, it shouldn't be so much stronger, right? This was the standard of the 7th level of the body refinement realm, which was comparable to a 2nd-grade divine inscription. I don't believe it. The deacon who was testing the divine inscription once again strengthened his strength. With each punch, the divine inscription did not break. After increasing the strength to the 9th level of the body refinement realm, the divine inscription still did not break. Immediately afterward, he increased his strength again, reaching the level of 1st level of spirit refinement realm, and heavily punched the divine inscription. Although his fist went down, but the divine inscription did not break. It still remained in its original state, motionless. Shocked, everyone was shocked at this time. A 1st-rank divine rune was attacked by a 1st-level spirit refinement realm cultivator, but it still didn't break? This was simply inconceivable. Was this really a 1st-grade divine imprint? Had he seen wrongly? This time, everyone's mocking smile froze. They could no longer laugh. Is this a 1st-rank divine inscription? I suspect that I saw wrongly. This is a 3rd-rank divine inscription. Even if it is not a 3rd-rank divine inscription, it is at least a 2nd-rank divine inscription, right? Yes, how can a 1st-rank divine inscription last so long? Hurry up and check it again. It is definitely a 2nd-rank divine inscription or above. The noise came again. If it was a 2nd-rank divine inscription, then this result is not surprising. The deacon was even more shocked. He did not hold back, but he still couldn't break this divine inscription. What happened? Are you sure it is a 1st-rank divine inscription? At this time, Li Tianlong, who was sitting on the top, stood up and looked at the deacon. Pavilion Master Li, I am sure that this is a 1st-rank divine inscription, not a 3rd-rank divine inscription. The deacon smiled bitterly. How could he be wrong? Soon after, Li Tianlong walked down from the top. Normally, he would not need to personally check this test, but now he had no choice but to come down to see what was going on. Li Tianlong came to the side of the armor, and after looking at it from top to bottom, his eyes were filled with shock. He turned to look at Tianyun and said in shock, this really is a first-rank divine inscription. This is unbelievable. This is indeed a first-rank divine inscription, but the difficulty of inscribing it has already reached the peak of third-rank divine inscription," Li Tianlong commented. "This is not an ordinary first-rank divine inscription, it is a triple first-rank divine inscription. This means that when 3 first-rank divine inscriptions are fused together, the effect will soar to the level of a third-rank divine inscription. How can an ordinary attack break it?" After Li Tianlong commented, everyone was stunned, the Wang family head was dumbfounded, Zhu Tianhong's eyes widened, and Lin Li's mocking smile froze. All divine inscriptionists have heard of strengthening-type divine inscriptions. The more layers of divine inscriptions, the higher the difficulty and the higher the power. It looked like a first-rank divine inscription, but the difficulty was close to the peak of third-rank divine inscriptions. Ordinary divine inscriptionists would not be able to inscribe it. The precision required was too high, and the slightest deviation would result in failure, with no chance of recovery. Therefore, most divine inscriptionists would rather inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions than attempt to inscribe multiple divine inscriptions. The reason was that if they failed in the middle of inscribing a third-rank divine inscription, they could try again immediately. If the third-rank divine inscription failed, the previous 2 divine inscriptions would also be destroyed. However, this extremely difficult divine inscription was drawn by Yi Tianyun. Everyone was dumbfounded, and the mockery and ridicule from before had now become a silent reply to them. First-rank divine inscriptions were trash? Then their inscriptions were all trash, including Lin Li's. Li Tianlong's words were absolute, and everyone naturally believed him. However, this news came too suddenly, and it caused everyone to be dumbfounded. "You didn't check it carefully at all, this time it was your negligence." Li Tianlong frowned, he almost made a serious mistake. The deacon lowered his head in shame. He just took a casual glance and saw that it was a first-rank divine inscription, but he didn't check it carefully. Who would have thought that it was multiple divine inscriptions? It's not that he didn't know how to inscribe multiple divine inscriptions, but the level of the divine inscriptions here was almost the same. It was unlikely that there would be multiple divine inscriptions, but it actually appeared. There's no need to test this anymore, just give it a full score. It's not too difficult to withstand the attack of 8th-level spirit refinement realm. I didn't expect that there would really be multiple divine inscriptions. This is our mistake, but the full score can only be 10 points, otherwise I would definitely give you 12 points. Li Tianlong directly gave a full score, and it couldn't be higher. The rules have been set, so it's not easy to change it. Li Tianlong looked at Yi Tianyun with satisfaction and smiled. "You are the contestants sent by Zhu family, right? Not bad." This result made everyone's eyes widen. Previously, they mocked Yi Tianyun for using a spirit tool level divine rune pen as a waste, but now they were all silent, and no one dared to say a word. Multiple divine inscriptions, it takes a very high talent to inscribe them. Chapter 181. Wang Clan Leader, the little friend we invited is indeed a first-grade divine imprint. However, it's a multi-layered one. How do you feel about it? Zhu Tianhong immediately began to mock and slap their faces. Just now, they were all mocking them fiercely. Now, it was his turn to mock them. He had to pay for what he had done. Zhu Tianhong immediately laughed out loud. He had thought that Yi Tianyun was a fake, but now it seemed that he was the real deal. Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan were pleasantly surprised. This was their elder Yi's strength. How is this possible? How can he inscribe so many powerful inscriptions at such a young age? The Wang clan leader's countenance sank. How could such a young man have such shocking talent? In the audience, Lin Li, who was at the side, exclaimed in shock, "How is this possible? It's so difficult to inscribe so many divine inscriptions. How did you manage to inscribe them?" The disdain in his eyes had long turned into shock. He was deeply shocked by Yi Tianyun's situation. I can only inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions. It seems like I have to go back and drink milk to cultivate. But if I have to go back and drink milk, what about you? Should I go back to my mother's womb and start over again? Tianyun glanced at Linley. His tone was calm, but it had a strong impact on Linley's face. What did you say? Linley was infuriated by Tianyun's words, but he could not teach him a lesson here, so he could only glare at him. I didn't say anything. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just repeating what you just said. Tianyun smiled indifferently. This Linley was used to being arrogant. Did he think that he could mock others as he pleased, just because he was the strongest? He had always been the one who was disrespectful to him, so don't blame him for being impolite. If he still wanted to drink milk, then Linley could go back to his mother's womb. Don't be so smug. I don't know how you cultivate, but I know how to use multiple divine inscriptions. Linley refused to admit defeat. Don't think that you're the only one who knows how to use them. There are still a few more to come. He didn't know what level Tianyun was at, so he didn't dare to mock him anymore. He decided to wait and see. He didn't expect that a freak would appear out of nowhere and directly use multiple divine inscriptions to suppress him. Qin Wentian had cultivated in many different types of divine inscriptions before, but he wasn't too familiar with them. The precision required was too high, and he had to perfectly execute the word quasi before he could inscribe it perfectly. If he failed, the consequences would be unsightly. Normally, without absolute confidence, he wouldn't dare to play like this. In this match, Tianyun had slapped his opponents in the face with his strongest performance. He had obtained a perfect score and immediately attracted the attention of many people. He had displayed an outstanding standard in this round. Would he be able to maintain it in the next round? Who knows, he might only be able to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions. Although there were multiple types of divine inscriptions, ultimately, they were still first-grade divine inscriptions. Multiple divine runes, can it resist the attack of 8th-level spirit refinement realm? Tianyun is quite satisfied with this result. This armor is engraved with multiple divine runes, but it doesn't mean that it can't withstand the attack of an 8th-level spirit refinement realm cultivator. But relatively speaking, it can withstand a few attacks, and after a few more attacks, it will definitely collapse. Soon, the first round was over. Tianyun won the first place with a perfect score. The second place was Linley, but Linley also got a perfect score, so they were evenly matched. However, in terms of level, Tianyun was indeed slightly better. After the first round, the second round began. In the first round, someone won the first place with a very good level of multiple divine inscriptions. This is something I didn't expect. Li Tianlong was talking about Tianyun. After glancing at the crowd, he continued, "In the second round, I will slightly change the rules and content so that the score will not be so rigid. At least, it won't be the same as the first round. After all, the situation of each family is different, which makes me feel very gratified. The division is getting stronger and stronger, which is a good thing for our star pavilion." As soon as he said this, several of the deacons' faces changed slightly, which means that the content will be changed. Many people's face changed slightly because the content has changed. There is no secret, these deacons can know the content of the second round in advance. Therefore, many people in the family spent a lot of money to get the information from these deacons. Now that the content of the second round has changed, it's possible that the content of the second round will be changed, making their money directly go down the drain. And the thing that changed all of this is Tianyun, who was ridiculed before, which made them feel very uncomfortable. If the content changed, the previous intensive training will obviously be in vain. Now they can only pray in their hearts that there will not be any change in the content, just a little change in the rules. As the chief pavilion master, unless Li Tianlong is specially biased towards a family, otherwise, no amount of bribery will be useful. As a divine rune grandmaster and the most powerful chief pavilion master, who can bribe him? After pondering for a moment, he said, "The content of the second round is to test speed. The more divine runes you successfully inscribe within an hour, the higher the score. Regardless of the grade, the lower the score, and the higher the grade, the higher the score. A first-grade divine rune is worth 1 point, a second-grade divine rune is worth 2 points, a third-grade divine rune is worth 5 points, and a fourth-grade divine rune is worth 10 points. There is no upper limit for the score." The content of the second round was also very simple. The key to the second round was the word fast. After the spectators heard it, the content of the second round changed drastically. Previously, the rules stated that the person who inscribed the divine inscription in the shortest amount of time, and the higher the grade of the divine inscription, the higher the score. This means that a low-grade divine rune won't work at all. Even if a first-grade divine rune was successfully inscribed within a second, because the grade was too low, it would still be counted as 1 point, so there was not much meaning to it. But now it was different. The content was still the same as before, but the content was completely different. This is a competition to see who can inscribe more divine runes within the same amount of time, and this has undoubtedly become a battle for points. This is to consider the allocation of time, and there is not much meaning to blindly inscribing high-grade divine runes. If everyone can only inscribe a third-grade divine rune, and inscribe one in 2 hours, then they can only get 5 points. If they can inscribe 3 second-grade divine runes in one go within 2 hours, then they can directly rush to 6 points, and directly crush third-grade divine runes. This depends on the proficiency level. If the speed of inscribing high-grade divine runes is similar to the speed of inscribing second-grade divine runes, then third-grade divine runes will undoubtedly be the priority. Although the changes have changed, everyone felt that it is still acceptable. Ding! Successfully completed Chain Mission 1. Reward: 500,000 experience points, 1,000 divine rune proficiency points. Ding! Successfully accepted Chain Mission 2. Complete the second round of competition. Reward: 500,000 experience points, 1,000 divine rune proficiency points. Chapter 182. This is the first time I've seen a chain mission like this. But this feeling isn't bad, the more the better. Tianyun was quite satisfied with the proficiency level of his divine inscriptions, but it would be even better if it was even higher. From the intermediate level to the advanced level, the proficiency level required wasn't low, but it wasn't considered high either. It would only require 10,000 divine inscriptions. However, reaching the advanced level wasn't his goal. What he needed was to reach the standard of a grandmaster, and the proficiency level required for that would definitely not be low. For the second round, the difficulty level isn't that high, but rather, it's a test of speed. Tianyun narrowed his eyes. There were so many types of tests, and it was truly a test of their standards. To him, this wasn't a difficult task, and he could easily deal with it. As the participants heaved a sigh of relief, Li Tianlong continued, "This round isn't just a test of one's proficiency level, but also the strength of one's mental energy. Make good use of your time to grasp this round. Who knows, there might be some who would be able to display their prowess and obtain a higher score." His words weren't targeted at a specific person, but rather, everyone. There were some who could inscribe second-grade divine inscriptions at an extremely fast speed. Basically, they could inscribe tens of second-grade divine inscriptions within 2 hours. While he was speaking, the participants had already decided what grade of divine inscription they wanted to inscribe. They would naturally choose the divine inscription they were most proficient with, and not the higher the grade the better. Pavilion Lordly, what about multi-level divine inscriptions? Are there any bonus points? At this moment, a participant inquired. Of course there are. For example, the multi-level divine inscriptions from before were all equivalent to third-grade divine inscriptions in terms of difficulty. Li Tianlong lightly laughed. But this will take up a lot of time. If you want to do this, you have to consider it carefully. The probability of failure is so high, why not inscribe a simpler one? The rules were basically announced. There were many aspects to this round, and it was truly a test of one's comprehensive ability. After which, the attendants took out a piece of paper and distributed it to the participants. This time around, they didn't inscribe the divine inscription on the armor, but on the piece of paper instead. Inscribing the divine inscription on the divine inscription paper and pasted it onto a weapon or armor could achieve the same effect. It was just that after he finished inscribing the divine imprints, these divine imprints would be taken back, and he would be able to earn another sum of income. I'm really looking forward to seeing you continue inscribing those many first-grade divine imprints, Lin Li mocked. He actually hoped that Yi Tianyun would continue to play like this. Otherwise, he would be courting death. Based on the previous speed, Yi Tianyun was definitely done for. He had only completed one after so long. If he did that, he would definitely fall behind in the second round. Don't worry, I'm not as stupid as you. Yi Tianyun replied indifferently, angering the other side half to death. Humph, then I'd like to see what grade you can draw. Lin Li didn't believe that Yi Tianyun had really reached the realm of a third-grade divine inscriptionist. Could it be that he really came from a hidden clan? After all, he looked too young. He was the youngest here, so how could anyone believe him? After everyone was ready, Li Tianlong gestured to the deacon beside him to flip the hourglass again. The hourglass countdown started again. At the start of the second round, everyone started inscribing, releasing their mental energy to the maximum. Regardless of whether it was concentration or strength, this round was much stronger than the first round. The first round had more time, and many people were able to inscribe their divine imprints smoothly. However, this round was different. This was a crucial point. If they were slower by even half a beat, they would fall behind by a huge margin. At this moment, many gazes fell on Yi Tianyun. They wanted to see what grade of divine imprint he would draw. If he continued to inscribe a first-grade divine imprint, it would be too hilarious. What was the point of successfully inscribing a first-grade divine imprint? If he succeeded, he would only get 1 point. This was too low. After Yi Tianyun put his brush down, the divine imprint that appeared in front of everyone's eyes was indeed a first-grade divine imprint. He inscribed it unhurriedly, and it landed on the paper. It's still a first-grade divine imprint? Everyone was stunned. They had thought that it would at least be a second-grade divine imprint. Who would have thought that it would still be a first-grade divine imprint? Other than him, the lowest-grade divine imprint was a second-grade divine imprint. The Wang clan head burst into laughter. He pointed at Yi Tianyun and said, "It seems like he really only knows how to inscribe first-grade divine imprints. No wonder he could inscribe so many first-grade divine imprints. If he could only inscribe first-grade divine imprints, he would definitely be able to learn this move." Yeah, a first-grade divine imprint is too low. That Lin Li inscribed a third-grade divine imprint, and if he succeeded, he would get 5 points. That's equivalent to inscribing 5 first-grade divine imprints, the Wang clan head added as he looked at Yi Tianyun with a mocking gaze. From their point of view, the representative of the Zhu clan had completely revealed his level. He was unable to inscribe high-grade divine imprint. He actually continued to inscribe first-grade divine imprints. Previously, I suspected that he was not a beginner, but a third-grade divine imprint master. But now I'm wrong. He really only knows how to inscribe first-grade divine imprints. After Lin Li saw this, he was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. This was really too stupid. How many divine imprints did he have to inscribe before he could catch up to them? Zhu Tianhong, who was standing at the side, was also stunned. Previously, he was filled with confidence in Yi Tianyun. Now, his confidence had completely sunk. If he continued to inscribe first-grade divine imprints, Could it be that he couldn't even inscribe second-grade divine imprints? The surrounding audience started to voice their doubts. He's still continuing to inscribe first-grade divine imprints? Could it be that he really only knows how to inscribe first-grade divine imprints? That's true. Otherwise, why would he still inscribe first-grade divine imprints? I thought he was a hidden genius. Who would have thought that he would be a burden who had been focusing on first-grade divine imprints for 100 years, only practicing first-grade divine imprints, yet he could inscribe multiple first-grade divine imprints. They were about to burst into laughter. If this continued, how were they going to catch up? From the looks of it, Tianyun did not change his strategy. He was really going to continue inscribing first-grade divine imprints. Sister, this elder is really going to continue inscribing first-grade divine imprints. Is he still able to play so many tricks on first-grade divine imprints? Could it be that he wants to continue inscribing multiple divine imprints, but that doesn't seem to be worth it? I'm not too sure about this. I really can't understand Elder Yi's thoughts. Since he chose to continue inscribing first-grade divine imprints as the standard for the competition, he must have his reasons. Zhu Yue nodded. In her heart, she had no doubts about this. Chapter 183. Tianyun continued to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions. It could be said that this was within their expectations. They felt that Tianyun would only be able to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions. Only by madly practicing inscribing first-grade divine inscriptions would one be able to inscribe multiple first-grade divine inscriptions. If not, how could one succeed on the first try? It was fine to play like this in the first match, but if he continued to play like this in the second match, he would be courting death. Unless he could inscribe multiple divine imprints of the first grade at an even faster speed, there was no way he could catch up to the score of the others. For example, in the first round, he had spent almost 2 hours inscribing a divine rune of the first grade. According to the score, he could only get 5 points. It was just that at the same time as obtaining 5 points, the others would definitely be able to inscribe at least 2 or 3 third-grade divine inscriptions. Hence, they would be able to obtain 15 points, directly widening the gap between them. There was no way to catch up. Initially, they thought that Tianyun was just casually inscribing inscriptions. But later on, they discovered that they were all wrong. Tianyun was really inscribing first-grade divine inscriptions one by one. His speed was neither fast nor slow. According to this speed, he would only be able to draw 5 or 6 pieces at most when the time was up, which meant he would only be able to get 5 or 6 points. This score was simply too low. Li Tianlong was stunned when he saw this. Then, he shook his head and sighed deeply. He had thought that Tianyun's proficiency would be very high, hence he specially modified it. But who would have thought that Tianyun only knew how to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions? This was truly too disappointing. Did I make a mistake? Li Tianlong felt that those who were able to inscribe multiple divine inscriptions definitely wouldn't be too weak. Although inscribing one more divine inscriptions would allow one to reach such a standard, to be able to inscribe so many divine inscriptions continuously, it meant that one must have a strong foundation of mental energy. This was because the amount of mental energy required to inscribe a third-level divine inscription far surpassed the amount of mental energy required to inscribe 3 first-grade divine inscriptions. In fact, the amount of mental energy required to inscribe 3 first-grade divine inscriptions was even comparable to the amount of mental energy required to inscribe third-grade divine inscriptions. There were quite a few people who thought highly of him, but now they all felt that they had misjudged him. It seemed like he was just a participant with a decent foundation. Judging from his age, he would have many opportunities in the future, but he was afraid that he would not be able to do so now. Tianyun's countenance was still as calm as ever, as though he wasn't affected by the commotion in the surroundings. He was completely focused on inscribing a first-grade divine imprint. A moment later, A bright light shone in front of his eyes, and a faint smile appeared on his face. It's almost done. It feels much better than before. The next moment, the divine rune brush in his hand emitted a blinding glow, and its speed increased by a few times. Swish, swish, swish. The divine rune paper glowed faintly as he inscribed with the divine rune brush in his hand. In just a short while, he had completed a first-grade divine rune. Its speed was several times faster than before, and it was still increasing exponentially. This situation was swiftly noticed by the others, as they stared dumbfoundedly at Tianyun. It was simply too fast. They had never seen someone inscribing a first-grade divine inscription with such speed. With a swoosh, one was successfully produced. Then, with another swoosh, another was successfully produced. In less than the time it took for a joss stick to burn, he had already produced 5 to 6 divine runes. Compared to the others, he had produced 5 to 6 divine runes before even a single one was completed. This was already equivalent to a third-grade divine rune. What's going on? His speed has suddenly increased. Yeah, isn't this speed a little too ridiculous? It's too terrifying. In the blink of an eye, he has already inscribed 7 to 8 divine runes. My God, this is faster than the third-grade divine runes of the others, and they haven't even finished. They were all shocked as they had witnessed something unbelievable. This was just like the first round. They had initially thought that Tianyun would be at the bottom, but now it seemed that if he maintained this speed, he wouldn't be able to easily clinch first place. Linley had also noticed the situation here, and his originally happy heart sank to the bottom. This was simply illogical. Wasn't the speed at which he was inscribing a first-grade divine rune a little too fast? It had completely surpassed the word fast in this round. Li Tianlong was stunned, and he couldn't help but stand up from his chair. He stared blankly at the crazy speed of Tianyun's inscription, and he muttered, "It's too fast. How proficient does he have to be able to inscribe at such a speed? I'm sorry, there's no more divine rune paper. Please add more divine rune paper." Tianyun suddenly raised his hand, gesturing to the attendant beside him to add more divine rune paper. At this moment, there was already a stack of divine rune inscribed in his hand. There weren't many, but there were already more than 10 of them. He had used up all the divine rune paper given to him. Generally speaking, a dozen pieces of divine wood paper would be enough to inscribe in an hour. He didn't expect a freak to appear. It wasn't even half the time, and he had already finished inscribing. Oh, okay. The attendant recovered from the shock and hurriedly replaced the divine rune paper with a new one. Immediately after, Tianyun immersed himself in inscribing again. The swoosh swoosh sounds were incomparably smooth. In the blink of an eye, a first-grade divine rune had been freshly inscribed. There was no difficulty at all. This is too abnormal. How are we supposed to compete? Even if it's only 1 point, based on this speed, he has already surpassed us. So a first-grade divine rune can be played like this. I was wrong. The surrounding contestants shook their heads. There was no way they could compete with Linley, and this refreshed their common sense. So what if it was a first-grade divine rune? He could still get a high score. It could be said that if there were not enough points, the quantity would make up for it. What's going on? How can he inscribe so fast? Lin Li's expression was ugly, and his hands moved a little faster. Unexpectedly, with a bang, the divine rune paper caught fire. This meant that he had failed, and a third-grade divine rune was ruined just like that. May I ask, is this purposely showing mercy? Tianyun looked over and asked indifferently. Lin Li almost exploded in anger, but he still suppressed it. He had failed because of this matter. He couldn't be bothered to reply, and continued to inscribe seriously. Even if he failed, he had to win back some points. Time passed slowly, and 2 hours passed quickly. When the hourglass had just emptied, the attendant at the side immediately shouted, "Stop!" At this time, everyone stopped their divine rune brushes. Regardless of whether they had finished inscribing or not, they all had to put down their brushes. At this time, there was already a thick stack of inscribed divine runes beside Yi Tianyun's hand. Compared to the thin ones that the others had, this stack was really too thick. Chapter 184. Everyone looked at the thick stack of divine runes that Yi Tianyun had finished inscribing. They were shocked. This was the first time they saw a divine rune master inscribing so quickly. His speed was simply too fast. It was unbelievable. Initially, Yi Tianyun was not very proficient. After all, he had mainly inscribed third-grade divine runes before. Now that he was inscribing first-grade divine runes, he was a little rusty. He could succeed, but it was a little slow. After familiarizing himself with the process, his speed increased immediately. It was the same for the 3 first-grade divine runes. If it wasn't for his lack of proficiency, he would have spent a lot of time. Ahem, we'll start counting the scores now. Li Tianlong recovered from his shock and gestured for the other deacons to check the numbers so that they could evaluate the scores. After that, they all walked down and began to tally the points. Very quickly, it was Lin Li's turn. After the numbers were tallied, the administrator nodded and announced, a total of 3 third-grade divine inscriptions, 15 points. A total of 2 third-grade divine runes and 2 second-grade divine runes, 14 points in total. Not bad. This was the score of one of the contestants. A total of 2 third-grade divine runes, 2 second-grade divine runes, and 1 first-grade divine rune, 15 points in total. Your score is not bad. This was the score of another contestant. This score was almost the same as Lin Li's. In fact, if Lin Li hadn't failed, he would have gotten 20 points. No one else could surpass Lin Li. Lin Li felt insulted. He could have gotten 20 points, but he didn't expect that someone else would be on the same level as him. Wasn't this a humiliation? He was a disciple of the divine rune manor. How could his status be compared to theirs? Then, the scores were announced one by one. Most of the contestants were around 10 points. There were no high scores. Finally, it was time to count Yi Tianyun's score. The deacon took a thick stack of divine runes and counted them. With a trembling voice, he announced, 32 first-grade divine runes, 32 points in total. When the score was announced, everyone's heart trembled violently. This was far more than the score of the second-place contestant. If Lin Li hadn't failed, he would only have gotten 20 points, which was still 12 points higher than him. The difference was 2 third-grade divine runes. How was Lin Li going to fill the gap? When everyone heard this news, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't this a little too heaven-defying? Although it was easier to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions, to be able to inscribe 32 of them in such a short period of time was already considered a top-tier ability. Wang family head, thank you for letting me win. This round, our Zhu family has won again. Zhu Tianhong naturally would not forget to mock the Wang clan, who asked them to mock him before. However, his heart finally calmed down. This Yi Tianyun really made people tremble in fear. It was really unexpected. First, he made people fall to the bottom, and then he was thrown up high. This was definitely a genius. There's still one more round. Don't celebrate too early. When the Wang family head said these words, he didn't have much confidence in his heart. Right now, Yi Tianyun's score was already 12 points away from the second place. How could he catch up? Is that so? Not to mention one more round. Even if there were 2 more rounds, our Zhu family would still win. Zhu Tianhong said with a smile. The Wang family head muttered in his heart. Previously, when Yi Tianyun was inscribing first-grade divine inscriptions, someone had an extremely ugly expression on his face. If the next round is for high-grade divine inscriptions, I think he will continue to inscribe first-grade divine inscriptions. If he has the ability to inscribe fourth-grade divine inscriptions, I'll be convinced. The Wang family head snorted coldly. He was unwilling to admit defeat even if he died. The difficulty of inscribing 4th-grade divine inscriptions was extremely high. It was even higher than inscribing ordinary 4th-grade divine inscriptions. Hence, doing this was a strenuous and unrewarding task. No one was willing to do it. In terms of difficulty, even a 5th-grade divine inscriptionist wouldn't dare to do it. The more layers of divine inscriptions one tried, the higher the chances of failure. It would be better to inscribe 4th-grade divine inscriptions directly. He definitely knows high-grade divine inscriptions. Who said that he must inscribe 1st-grade divine inscriptions? Zhu Tianhong immediately retorted. He didn't believe that Yi Tianyun only knew 1st-grade divine inscriptions. Is that so? Let's wait and see. The Wang family head didn't believe it. Even if Yi Tianyun knew high-grade divine inscriptions, Lin Li could also do it. While the commotion continued, Yi Tianyun's side was filled with joy. Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan were extremely excited. Their elder Yi was indeed amazing. Elder Yi won again, and his score was much higher than the 2nd place. This time, we will definitely be first. Yeah, Elder Yi is too amazing. I didn't expect him to be such an amazing divine inscriptionist. Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan's beautiful eyes twinkled. Looking at Yi Tianyun on the stage, the light in their eyes became more and more obvious. Who wouldn't like an outstanding genius? Impossible, you! How can you inscribe so fast? Lin Li was extremely shocked. He couldn't believe this speed. A divine inscriptionist who wasn't from the divine inscription manner could defeat him. This made him feel a great humiliation. He carried the glory of the divine inscription manner on his back, but he lost to a divine inscriptionist who was so much younger than him? Didn't you say that I focused on 1st-grade divine inscriptions? Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. But it's true. So what if I focused on 1st-grade divine inscriptions? Didn't I still win? Go back to your mother's womb and cultivate for a few more years. Yi Tianyun's words almost made Lin Li vomit blood. Who would have thought that Yi Tianyun could really continue to use 1st-grade divine inscriptions to suppress him? This was equivalent to giving him a ruthless stab in the back to his mocking words. Yi Tianyun was this kind of person. If he provoked him, he would pay it back tenfold. After the scores were tabulated, Li Tianlong nodded his head in satisfaction. The results this time are very pleasantly surprising. To be able to inscribe a 1st-grade divine inscription at such a speed, it's impossible without an extremely high level of precision. Every single stroke, a single mistake would result in failure. If I were to do it, I reckon that my speed wouldn't be as fast. Li Tianlong's words caused an uproar among the crowd. Li Tianlong was a divine inscriptionist master, yet he said that his speed was about the same as Yi Tianyun's. This was shocking. However, this is indeed beyond my expectations. Even if the score is low, if the speed is fast, it's true that you can turn the tables. Li Tianlong's smile quickly turned solemn. However, the next round will be the real test of your standards. Do your best and display your strongest divine runes. You will be awarded points based on the grade and complexity of the divine runes. This time, there is no upper limit to the number of points you can get. The real chance to turn the tables has arrived. Only those with strength can stay until the end. Those without strength are destined to be eliminated, Li Tianlong said solemnly. This time, it was finally time to test one's true strength. The higher the grade, the higher the score. Within the same grade, the difficulty was divided into low, medium, and high. For example, some divine inscriptions that increased the power of weapons were considered medium difficulty. Naturally, the score would not be low. Everything depended on the rarity of the divine inscription. This wasn't just a test of one's cultivation level, but also one's wealth. Just because some divine inscriptions were rare, it didn't mean that others knew them. This was the key to surpassing others. Chapter 185. Ding. Successfully completed the second round of competition. Obtained 500,000 experience points, 1,000 proficiency points of divine inscriptions mastery. He had obtained a perfect victory and obtained this perfect reward. The experience was quite generous, but the proficiency was the most important. A satisfied smile appeared on Yi Tianyun's face. It was merely inscribing a first-grade divine imprint, it really wasn't much. If it was a high-grade divine imprint, he could easily inscribe it. However, he loved to slap their faces, ruthlessly slap their faces. Keeping a low profile and doing things in a high profile was his philosophy. Not bad at this rate, it wouldn't be a problem for me to break through to the advanced divine inscriptions. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. Li Tianlong was very gratified by everyone's enthusiasm. He smiled again. I'm still very happy that you all still have such fighting spirit. After all, I'm very gratified that you all still have such continuous fighting strength after the previous battle. The sudden change in the content of the previous match caught many people off guard, but they still persevered. After going through the previous test, most people were already showing signs of fatigue, so this test was even more of a test of everyone's endurance. For those who didn't have sufficient stamina, there was a possibility that they would fail when inscribing the divine inscriptions they were most proficient in. Hence, changing the second stage to a battle of attrition was something that had been considered carefully. Everyone's starting line was the same. It all depended on who had the strongest endurance. Let's roughly announce the scores. First grade divine inscriptions. The difficulty of inscribing are 1, 2, 3 point. Second grade divine inscriptions. The difficulty of inscribing are 4, 5, 6 points. Third grade divine inscriptions. The difficulty of inscribing are 5, 8, 10 points. Fourth grade divine inscriptions. The difficulty is 20, 40, 60 points. When it came to grade 4 divine inscriptions, the score skyrocketed, jumping up to 20 points in one go. The intermediate difficulty was 40 points. For example, if he could inscribe a high-grade 4th grade divine inscription, he would be awarded 60 points. All the points in front would be filled up. This is only the difference in difficulty. If someone is able to inscribe more divine runes, the score will naturally be different. Now, this is only the most basic score. When you have inscribed the corresponding divine runes, we will announce the score separately. However, the score will definitely be higher than you can imagine. Li Tianlong looked at them and said with a faint smile, therefore, you should give it your all. The higher the grade, the better. Whether you can turn the tables or not depends on this last round. There were only 3 matches here, no more, no less. This was not a martial arts competition. The consumption of mental energy was not something that could be easily recovered by eating a pill. Pills that could effectively recover mental energy consumption were simply too rare and expensive. It was obviously not worth it to use it in this competition. Everyone nodded. They were already clear about this rule. They would do their best to fight for it. How many rankings they could get would depend on this gamble. Ding. Successfully accepted the 3rd chain mission, perfect victory in the 3rd stage. Reward: 500,000 experience points, 1,000 divine inscriptions proficiency points. The reward was still the same. There was no change, but it was enough for him. Very well, since everyone is clear, I won't say any more. There will be a little more time this time, 10 hours. Make good use of these 10 hours. Li Tianlong said. 10 hours was already a long time. Even if he failed during this period, he would be able to react quickly and try again. Perhaps he could take a good rest and carefully inscribe after a period of time. This was not a bad idea. Then, an even bigger hourglass was brought out. This was a 10-hour process. After it was brought out, it was violently flipped over, signifying the official start of the competition. After flipping it over, everyone started to inscribe. Some chose to meditate and rest. If you have the ability this time, why don't you try to inscribe a first-grade divine inscription? Lin Li looked coldly at Yi Tianyun. He did not believe that Yi Tianyun would continue to inscribe a first-grade divine inscription this time. A first-grade divine inscription was so low. Unless it was a multi-grade divine inscription, and it was at least a 4-grade divine inscription, the points would explode. If he continued to inscribe a 3-grade divine inscription, according to this definition, it would at most be 10 points. What does the grade of divine inscription I inscribe have to do with you? Yi Tianyun did not continue to pay attention to him. Instead, he meditated on the spot and closed his eyes to recover. He did not choose to inscribe a divine inscription immediately. Linley was exasperated. He had nowhere to vent his anger. If not for the fact that there were so many people here, he would have exploded. After that, he could not be bothered to speak any more. He also meditated to recover, and did not intend to inscribe immediately. In the previous battle, he had expended a lot of energy. Hence, most of them chose to meditate to recover. After recovering a little, they would inscribe their highest grade divine inscription in one go. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed. Many of the participants had already gotten up to inscribe their divine inscriptions. Some only started after 6 hours. Linley only stood up to inscribe the divine weave after the 6th hour had passed. His actions quickly attracted everyone's attention. They wanted to see what grade of divine inscription Linley was going to inscribe. They all chose to rest for 6 hours before starting. Even if they failed, they would still have time to inscribe another divine inscription. A few of the participants who had performed better earlier were in the crowd's range of attention. This time, the one with the most outstanding performance was not Linley, but the girl beside him. Look, isn't the divine inscription inscribed by the Hua family's helper a little strange? Yeah, everyone else's is glowing gold, but hers is glowing red. It doesn't look like an ordinary divine inscription? Many people turned their attention to the girl. They realized that the divine inscription she was inscribing was very special. The light it emitted was clearly different from the others. More and more people turned their attention to her. After all, this divine inscription was a little special. At this time, the girl's forehead was covered in sweat. She gritted her teeth and continued inscribing. The divine inscription brush in her hand was about to break. The red light became more and more obvious. Yi Tianyun focused his attention on her. This girl was not extremely beautiful, but she was rather delicate. She gave off a very clean and clear feeling. Her slender hands inscribed on the divine inscription paper at a moderate speed. If I remember correctly, she should be called He Qianhan? Yi Tianyun had heard someone call her before. She was the helper invited by the Hua family. He did not know where she was from, but she seemed to be quite skilled. She had scored 15 points before, tied with Linley. Oh, this is a little interesting. A 3rd-grade divine inscription with multiple attributes, and an improved version at that. How rare. Li Tianlong's eyes lit up. He was the judge of this round. He had stood up early and walked down. When he saw He Qianhan inscribing the divine inscription, he paid a little more attention. This flashing red light was not a plaything. It was the power of the fire attribute. This was an attribute divine inscription. When placed on a weapon, it would directly strengthen the weapon to the fire attribute. It was a 3rd-grade divine inscription with a high difficulty. This was not just a simple 3rd-grade divine inscription, but multiple 3rd-grade divine inscriptions. It seemed like she wanted to strengthen it to the 2nd grade, at least to strengthen the fire attribute by a level. Multiple divine inscriptions were very precious. A weapon could only be inscribed with one type of divine inscription. Hence, the choice of divine inscription was extremely important. Not only did it have to be a good divine inscription, but it also had to be multiple divine inscriptions. Only then would the value be higher. Now, He Qianhan's performance was very eye-catching. It seemed like she was really going to complete a 3rd-grade divine inscription with dual attribute. Her score would be directly comparable to a 4th-grade divine inscription. This meant that if she completed it, she would get 20 points. Chapter 186. Many people no longer paid attention to the divine inscriptions of others. Instead, they were all focused on Lin Li and the rest. Now that He Qianhan had appeared, the top 3 seemed even more mysterious. Yi Tianyun paid more attention to He Qianhan. He Qianhan's level wasn't low, but he didn't know which sect came to help her. Her level is not bad. I wonder where did she come from? Or was she trained by the Hua family? How can the Hua family train such a talented divine rune master? She doesn't look old, only in her 20s. I really don't know where she came from. She is not trained by the Hua family. She was invited by the Heaven's Top Mansion. Heaven's Top Mansion? That declining Heaven's Top Mansion? They finally understood He Qianhan's true identity. They didn't expect the declining Heaven's Top Mansion to appear here to help the Hua clan in the competition. Heaven's Top Mansion? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He didn't expect He Qianhan to be from the Heaven's Top Mansion. Thinking about it carefully, the declining Heaven's Top Mansion needed resources to develop, so having a good relationship with the Star Pavilion was undoubtedly the best choice. As time passed, the divine marks they inscribed gradually took shape. But at this critical moment, He Qianhan's hand began to tremble slightly. Apparently, it was not stable enough, and she didn't know how to continue drawing. Obviously, she was still experimenting in this aspect, and she didn't know how to use it. This time, she had to give it her all. If she wanted to get a good ranking, she had to give it her all. But in the end, she didn't know how to continue drawing, and if she made a mistake, everything would be over. She's almost finished. Her hand began to tremble. It's not stable enough. She's about to fail. If she fails, she can only choose a 2nd-grade divine rune. If she chooses 2nd-grade divine rune, she won't be able to get into the top 3. All of them shook their heads. This was the result of not having sufficient standards, yet still trying to force things. At that time, they wouldn't even be able to successfully inscribe a 3rd-grade divine inscription. Seeing this situation, Wang family head showed a comforting smile. He didn't want to see anyone who could compete with Lin Li. Is it really going to end? He Qianhan stared at the divine inscription in front of her, her vision gradually blurred. She was almost unable to see the direction of the divine inscription. Calm down. The key to this divine inscription is the inner line. Just overlap it with the outer line. This way, the effect of the fire attribute can achieve the overlapping effect. At this moment, a voice drifted over. Turning her head, wasn't that the young man who inscribed the 1st-grade divine imprint earlier? After listening to it, it was as if he was suddenly enlightened, and his thoughts became clear. In the next moment, the divine rune brush in her hand stabilized, and it no longer swayed. Following that, she started drawing frantically. Every stroke was steady and steady. Very soon, the 3rd-grade dual-attribute divine inscription was perfectly inscribed by her. I'm done! He Qianhan shouted, extremely carefree. Good! The patriarch of the Hua family couldn't help but stand up excitedly. Then, Li Tianlong walked over, and after looking at it for a while, he nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, a slightly improved version of the fire attribute divine inscription, and a dual attribute one at that. The effect is not bad. I can give you 25 points, and the extra 3 points are your reward for improving it. This divine inscription of yours is slightly stronger than ordinary dual attribute divine inscriptions. Continue to work hard. Thank you, Pavilion Masterly, for your guidance, He Qianhan said respectfully. Then, she turned her head to look at Yi Tianyun, who was meditating at the side, and said in a low voice, Young Master, thank you for your help just now. Otherwise, I would have failed. You're welcome. It's because you have a good foundation. It has nothing to do with me. Yi Tianyun smiled casually. He didn't take the credit for this. Qianhan's clear eyes looked him up and down. It was really shocking to have such a level of skill at such a young age. Quick, look at Lin Li's divine inscription. The Wang family head's eyes lit up. He had placed all his hopes on Lin Li. As long as he won and took first place, the glory would still belong to the Wang family, not the Zhu family. Zhu Tianhong had some confidence in Yi Tianyun. However, when he looked up to observe Lin Li, his expression changed. Lin Li's divine inscription had already taken shape, and the aura it emitted was enough to let everyone know what level it was. It was a 4th grade intermediate difficulty divine inscription. This was not an ordinary 4th grade divine inscription, but a modified 4th grade divine inscription. This meant that his score would definitely not be lower than 40 points. If Yi Tianyun's performance was still at the 1st grade divine inscription level, which meant that he could only inscribe 3 divine inscriptions, then he would definitely win this competition. After all, 3 1st-grade divine inscriptions were at most 10 points. The difference between the two was quickly pulled to 30 points. Was this not enough to fill the gap from before? This is too crazy. To be able to inscribe 4th-grade divine inscriptions at such a young age, it's really amazing. Although he might not be proficient in all of them, being able to inscribe 4th-grade divine inscriptions is already equivalent to being a 4th-grade divine inscriptionist. They were all amazed. Qianhan's radiance had been suppressed in an instant. The two of them were not on the same level at all. This was Lin Li's true strength. After accumulating his strength, he was prepared to inscribe 4th-grade divine inscriptions, far ahead. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun had not made a move yet. He was still meditating at the same spot. Looking at him inscribing 4th-grade divine inscriptions, Yi Tianyun's expression was very calm. He did not seem to be panicking at all. However, Yi Tianyun immediately stood up, as if under pressure, and began to inscribe his divine inscriptions. The familiar starting method caused the crowd to be dumbfounded once again. It was still a 1st-grade divine inscription. Was he trying to defy the heavens? Using a 1st-grade divine inscription against a 4th-grade divine inscription, could it be that he needed to inscribe 4 or 5 1st-grade divine inscriptions? If that was really the case, he could catch up, but wasn't this a little too heaven-defying? To be able to inscribe 4 or 5 1st-grade divine inscriptions, the difficulty was already comparable to 4th-grade divine inscriptions. Was he looking for trouble? Everyone was shocked by Lin Li's standard. At the same time, they were dumbfounded by Yi Tianyun's decision to inscribe 1st-grade divine inscriptions. Could it be that Yi Tianyun only knew how to inscribe 1st-grade divine inscriptions? Wasn't this a little too much? With such shocking concentration, the effect of inscribing high-grade divine inscriptions would definitely not be bad. However, Yi Tianyun still stubbornly chose to inscribe 1st-grade divine inscriptions. Lin Li glanced at him from the side, and a look of disdain appeared in his eyes. It's still 1st-grade divine inscriptions? Seems like there's no hope for you. You still want to use 1st-grade divine inscriptions to defeat me? Too naive. I don't believe you can inscribe more divine inscriptions. Chapter 187. I'll let you try. Let's see if you can surpass me. Lin Li sneered and continued to focus on inscribing divine runes, ignoring Yi Tianyun. In his opinion, Yi Tianyun was bound to lose. Yi Tianyun had a slight advantage in the previous few rounds. This round was different. Only those with a higher grade would get a higher score. If the grade was too low, it would be difficult to get a higher score. Unless Yi Tianyun could really inscribe multiple 1st-grade divine runes, but that was too difficult. He might as well inscribe a 4th-grade divine rune. Yi Tianyun ignored the gazes of others and continued to inscribe the 1st-grade divine rune. Those with discerning eyes could tell that the 1st-grade divine rune he was inscribing was of a high difficulty level. But no matter how high the difficulty was, it was still a 1st-grade divine rune and not a 4th-grade divine rune. However, the difficulty of inscribing multiple divine runes on top of the high-difficulty first-grade divine rune would naturally multiply. Tianyun didn't feel anything and continued inscribing. Lin Li's eyes were filled with mockery. He didn't believe that Tianyun could successfully inscribe a fifth-grade divine rune. The difficulty was no less than inscribing a fourth-grade divine rune. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the two of them. They were the key figures. One was a genius who could inscribe fourth-grade divine runes, while the other was trying to use a first-grade divine rune to inscribe multiple divine runes. Li Tianlong's eyes flickered. He didn't think that Tianyun would make any mistakes when inscribing a first-grade divine rune. As long as he could inscribe a fifth-grade divine rune, he would still get a high score. The difficulty was obvious. As time passed, Lin Li was almost at the end of his inscribing. On the other hand, Tianyun had only inscribed the second divine rune. His progress was still relatively slow. Finally, when there was only an hour left, Lin Li managed to perfectly inscribe the fourth-grade divine sigil. After connecting it, there was a buzzing sound, and the fourth-grade divine sigil shone brightly. The entire sheet of divine rune paper emitted a dazzling light. This was the effect of a fourth-grade divine rune. Success! Lin Li was pleasantly surprised. He had successfully inscribed a fourth-grade divine inscription. Previously, he had failed many times, but this time, he had succeeded on his first try. As long as Tianyun didn't succeed in inscribing multiple divine inscriptions, he would be able to succeed. He really succeeded. To be able to become a fourth-grade divine inscriptionist at such a young age, his talent is truly incredible. Not bad, the standard of the divine inscriptions manner is truly shocking. Even at such a young age, he's already a fourth-grade divine inscriptionist. I wonder what level the other disciples have reached? Of course, there might even be a divine rune master. The spectators couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. A look of disdain flashed in Lin Li's eyes. Did they really think that divine inscriptionists were cabbages? For him to be able to inscribe fourth-grade divine inscriptions, luck played a huge part in his success. Although he was already classified as a fourth-grade divine inscriptionist, there was still a huge gap between him and a true perfect fourth-grade divine inscriptionist. Only those who could inscribe high-difficulty divine inscriptions could be called true fourth-grade divine inscriptionists. He could only be considered a pseudo-fourth-grade divine inscriptionist. Following which, he turned his gaze towards Tianyun. In the blink of an eye, Tianyun had already succeeded in inscribing a first-grade divine inscription at the third level, and was already starting on the fourth level. Currently, it seemed to be rather stable, with no signs of disorder. Based on this situation, if he could really inscribe a first-grade divine inscription at the fourth level, it would already be equivalent to a low-level fourth-grade divine inscription. But even if he succeeded, he would still lose to Lin Li. After all, Lin Li's divine inscription was an improved version, which would definitely add a lot of points. This meant that Tianyun had to inscribe a first-grade divine inscription at the fifth level, or else his points would be caught up. But could he really succeed by doing so? This was simply a heaven-defying standard. In terms of difficulty, it was equivalent to a mid-level fourth-grade divine inscription, but the actual difficulty was still higher than a mid-level fourth-grade divine inscription. It was like an ordinary weapon. No matter how exquisite it was still an ordinary weapon, and not a spiritual weapon. It could only be said that the effects were similar, but it could not be sold as a spiritual weapon. Zhu Yue and the rest held their breath. This was a crucial period, and they all hoped that Tianyun would win this battle. In their hearts, they all believed that Tianyun would win. Fifth-grade divine inscription, this was really heaven-defying. Only a seasoned fourth-grade divine inscription master could inscribe a divine inscription of this level. Zhu Tianhong's mouth was dry. He hoped that Tianyun would succeed and not fail. If he failed, there would be no time left. Forget about the top 3, it would be good if he could even fight his way into the top 10. 5th grade Divine Inscription. From start to finish, he only inscribed 1st grade Divine Inscriptions. I suspect that he really only knows this one move? The Wang family head couldn't help but mock. His foundation is not bad, but playing like this is not good at all. I don't believe that he can inscribe a 5th grade Divine Inscription. No one was optimistic that Yi Tianyun would be able to inscribe it, they felt that he was too reckless. But when they thought that he really only knew this one move, they really felt helpless. Yi Tianyun was calm, and did not feel that there was any problem. Soon, the 4th Divine Inscription was perfectly inscribed, and he began to inscribe the 5th Divine Inscription. The Divine Inscription brush in his hand was still steadily inscribing, and the Divine Inscription paper began to emit a dazzling light. Under such a crazy strengthening of the Divine Inscription, how could it not emit a dazzling light? There were only a few people left inscribing Divine Inscriptions, but only Yi Tianyun's Divine Inscription was the most eye-catching. With each stroke, the 5th Divine Inscription was more than half completed, and it began to be retracted. When they saw that there was only a little left, everyone's heart thumped. Could he really complete it? Fail, he must fail, Lin Li shouted in his heart. If he really succeeded, he would lose. If not for the fact that there were so many people watching, he would definitely fail under the interference if he really interfered. But now, he did not dare to do so. If he really did that, he would be directly disqualified by Li Tianlong, which would mean that he would be disqualified. Finally, Yi Tianyun completed the last part of the inscription under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Buzz! The entire Divine Inscription paper suddenly emitted a dazzling light, and a beam of light shot up into the sky. After a while, the light gradually subsided, and a 1st grade 5th grade Divine Inscription was successfully inscribed. This scene shocked everyone. He really succeeded. He succeeded? Lin Li's face was ashen. He raised his head and rubbed his eyes. It really was a 1st grade 5th grade Divine Inscription. There was no mistake, it really was a 1st grade 5th grade Divine Inscription. He did not expect to lose to Yi Tianyun again, and it was by a 1st grade Divine Inscription at that. This was the greatest humiliation. He had painstakingly inscribed a 4th grade Divine Inscription, but it was defeated by a 1st grade Divine Inscription. When Patriarch Wang saw that Yi Tianyun had succeeded, his face turned even uglier, and he directly slumped into his chair. Where did this kid come from? How could he do this? Good! Li Tianlong took the lead and exclaimed in admiration. How could he not applaud such amazing control? Li Tianlong praised. The surrounding audience could not help but applaud. Some were too lazy to applaud, and some were even more unwilling. These were all on the Wang family's side. How could they applaud? Chapter 188. Ding. Successfully inscribed a 1st grade 5th rank Divine Rune. Reward: 5,000 experience points, 100 proficiency points. The experience and proficiency points gained from successfully inscribing this Divine Rune were not low. After all, the difficulty of inscribing multiple Divine Runes was obvious. The proficiency points gained were not much different from a 4th grade Divine Rune. Therefore, other than wanting to shock them, Yi Tianyun didn't need to be calculative since the experience points were about the same. Everyone was shocked by Yi Tianyun's success. Even if Yi Tianyun wasn't a 4th grade Divine Rune Master, he would definitely be one in the future. In terms of difficulty, he could be considered a 4th grade Divine Inscriptionist. Hence, in theory, he could be considered a 4th grade Divine Inscriptionist. However, he didn't inscribe a 4th grade Divine Rune, so he couldn't be considered a 4th grade Divine Rune Master. However, Zhu Tianhong and the others knew that Yi Tianyun was indeed a 4th grade Divine Rune Master. It was just that he didn't inscribe a 4th grade Divine Rune. Not bad. You still succeeded. I thought you had failed. Not bad. Li Tianlong walked over and picked up the divine rune paper in front of Yi Tianyun. After studying it for a while, he said with satisfaction, "Not bad. It's indeed a 4th grade intermediate divine rune. Although the difficulty should be slightly higher, I can only give you 40 points. I'm already very satisfied." Yi Tianyun smiled respectfully. Even if his score was lower than Lin Li's, he still had enough points to surpass him. So what if it was an improved divine rune? It couldn't exceed 60 points. Li Tianlong announced Lin Li's score. "Your improved divine rune is not bad. I will give you 45 points. Thank you, Pavilion Lord Li." Although he said thank you, his expression was ugly. He stared at Yi Tianyun with resentment. The first place was taken away just like that. The quota to enter the heavens' spiritual jade pond was gone just like that. How could he not be resentful? Most importantly, he was a disciple of the divine rune manor. The meaning of failure was different. Soon after, the 3 matches were over and the scores were announced by Li Tianlong. The 3 rounds of competition have ended, and the rankings for this year's Divine Inscriptions Grand Competition are out. Now I will announce the rankings. First place, Yi Tianyun. Second place, Lin Li. Third place, He Qianhan. No matter what competition it was, only the first place would be remembered forever, not the second and definitely not the third. Wang family head, I'm really sorry this time. Our Zhu family has won in all aspects. Zhu Tianhong naturally would not forget to ruthlessly trample on the Wang family. As competitors, how could he let the other party have an easy time? Humph. Patriarch Wang didn't even bother to reply. He turned around and wanted to leave. This time, he was very dissatisfied with Lin Li. This made the Wang family lose a lot of face. In the following days, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads at all. The number of people who came to do business with them would definitely decrease. It would be strange if they could be happy about this. After the rankings were announced, the rewards were given out. Yi Tianyun obtained the right to use the Heaven's spiritual jade pool for 5 days and a token. With this token, he could use it at the General Pavilion at any time. 5 days in the Heaven's spiritual jade pool, good stuff. Yi Tianyun held the Heaven's spiritual jade pool reward token and nodded his head in satisfaction. Ding. Successfully completed the 3rd chain mission. Obtained 500,000 experience points, 1,000 proficiency points for Divine Inscriptions Mastery. The mission was completed perfectly, and he obtained another 1,000 proficiency points. After a quick check, he was not far from the high-level Divine Inscriptions Mastery. If he continued to inscribe more Divine Inscriptions, he would be able to reach that level easily. Other than 1st grade Divine Inscriptions, do you know other Divine Inscriptions? Lin Li walked over and said coldly, "No matter how well you inscribe 1st grade Divine Inscriptions, you are only a 1st grade Divine Inscriptionist. You are not a 4th grade Divine Inscriptionist." "What does this have to do with you?" Yi Tianyun replied indifferently. What did his grade have to do with him? This is simply an insult to me. If you have the ability, try inscribing 4th grade Divine Inscriptions. What's the point of knowing 1st grade Divine Inscriptions? Lin Li hated him to the core. What benefits do I get from inscribing 4th grade Divine Inscriptions? Yi Tianyun asked indifferently. As long as you can inscribe 4th grade Divine Inscriptions, Pavilion Master Li's insights will be yours. Lin Li threw out the reward he had obtained previously. However, Yi Tianyun did not even look at it. These insights were not of much use to him. I'm not interested. Take it and see for yourself, Yi Tianyun replied indifferently. What do you mean by not interested? I think you can't inscribe it at all. Lin Li snorted coldly. As long as you can inscribe 4th grade Divine Inscriptions here, not only will I give you the insights, I will also give you everything I have. He took out a storage ring and slapped it on the platform. No one knew what treasures were inside. However, this storage ring was already quite valuable. It could not be bought without a few 100,000 taels of silver. It was definitely a rare item. However, this storage ring was not rare at all. It was not even as spacious as his own inventory. He could store whatever he wanted. He was not interested in the storage ring, but he was interested in the things inside. Linley must be quite wealthy. Naturally, there would be good things inside. Since you want to give me something so much, I won't stand on ceremony. Tianyun pulled out a piece of divine rune paper and started inscribing with a divine rune brush. The people who had not left immediately focused their attention on him. What's going on? It looks like he's inscribing 4th grade divine inscriptions? Really? Doesn't he only know how to inscribe 1st grade divine inscriptions? Let's go and take a look. If he can really inscribe 4th grade divine inscriptions, that would be amazing. Very quickly they saw the result. Tianyun's speed of inscribing 4th grade divine inscriptions was very fast. Although it was not as fast as 1st grade divine inscriptions, it was definitely at least half the speed. With this speed, he quickly inscribed 4th grade divine inscriptions. In less than 2 hours, he easily completed the 4th grade divine inscription. There was no difficulty, he completed it in one go. Although it was a low-grade 4th grade divine inscription, it was at least a 4th grade divine inscription. Oh my God, he really completed it? Their eyes widened when they saw Tianyun finish the last stroke. The aura of the 4th grade divine inscription could not be faked. Linley was shocked, completely shocked. He had always thought that Tianyun only knew how to inscribe 1st grade divine inscriptions. Now, he was slapped in the face again. A 4th grade divine inscription was inscribed in front of him, and it was done perfectly. I thought you only knew 1st grade divine inscriptions? Linley was shocked. Chapter 189. Who said I only know 1st grade divine runes? Tianyun's words were like a slap to their faces. The 4th grade divine rune was right in front of them, and it was carved perfectly. There was nothing to nitpick about. Regardless of the difficulty, it was enough that he could carve it. This was equivalent to a heavy slap on Linley's face. Wasn't it just a 4th grade divine rune? Linley could carve it easily. When the surrounding people saw this, they were dumbfounded. He said he could carve it, and he really did it. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. At this moment, Li Tianlong had not left yet. When he saw this scene, he walked over and carefully looked at the 4th grade divine rune. He praised, not bad at all. This 4th grade divine rune is quite good. Speaking of which, why are you unwilling to carve 4th grade divine runes? Are you always aiming for 1st grade divine runes, or are you unable to carve the more difficult 4th grade divine runes? This question was also something that the others were very concerned about. He clearly had the ability to carve 4th grade divine runes, but he kept carving 1st grade divine runes. Was it because he wanted to keep a low profile? If that was the case, he had achieved his goal. I wanted to do that, but I was ridiculed by others for carving a 1st grade divine rune. You must know that the rules are like this. It doesn't matter what grade it is, as long as it meets the rules. Moreover, who says that 1st grade divine runes are the worst? Take a closer look at the effect of my 5th grade divine rune. I have always prioritized meaning over illusion. Tianyun's gaze was indifferent as he calmly replied to their questions. Only now did Li Tianlong recall, and he suddenly understood. Now that I think about it, the 1st grade divine imprint you inscribed was the simplest strength-type divine imprint. After adding 5 layers to it, the might of the divine imprint was doubled. 4th grade divine runes are basically elemental divine runes. If your weapon or armor already has an elemental attribute, it wouldn't be very useful. Yes, I have always prioritized practicality over illusion, Tianyun said with a faint smile. It's just that I thought the divine rune could be taken away. Haha, you can keep this. Your level is quite high. Li Tianlong thought for a moment and extended a cordial invitation. I heard that you are a helper invited by the Zhu family's patriarch. It seems that you are quite skilled. Although I don't know which sect you are from, why don't you come to the general pavilion as a foreign minister? We value talents in this area. We won't ask you to do anything. If you have nothing to do, you can help us carve the divine runes. If Lin Li agreed to Li Tianlong's invitation, it would undoubtedly be a slap to his face. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and politely refused. Thank you for your kindness, Pavilion Masterly, but I don't have such thoughts at the moment. That's a pity. Li Tianlong smiled and continued, I hope you can consider it carefully. We won't restrict you too much, and we can give you more resources. Junior will consider it carefully. Yi Tianyun nodded and said. After the invitation, Li Tianlong went to take care of other matters. He had already extended an olive branch, but he didn't know whether Yi Tianyun would accept it or not. Lin Li, who was at the side, was completely ignored by Li Tianlong. Even if his level wasn't low, Li Tianlong didn't invite him. Lin Li's level wasn't bad, but it wasn't good enough for him to invite him personally. This was because he could only be considered a fake 4th-grade Divine Rune Master, while Yi Tianyun was a steady 4th-grade Divine Rune Master. Li Tianlong could already tell from the technique just now. Combined with his previous level, Lin Li was definitely a top 4th-grade Divine Rune Master. Moreover, Lin Li was so young. How could he not put down his status and invite him? It wasn't that Li Tianlong was friendly, but that Yi Tianyun was worthy of his invitation. This was undoubtedly a heavy slap to Lin Li's face, and there was a sharp contrast. I've already won the bet, so I won't stand on ceremony and accept it. Yi Tianyun smiled and kept the storage ring. He had already won the bet, and as for what Lin Li thought, it was none of his business. Lin Li's face was ashen, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. He clenched his teeth, and after holding it in for a long time, he could only squeeze out a word. Humph. Lin Li turned around and left. He was too ashamed to see anyone, and he just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Lin Li turned around and left. Soon, the Wang family head walked down with a gloomy face. Wang family head, I'm sorry, this time it's my mistake. Lin Li said apologetically. Don't say any more, this has nothing to do with you. Moreover, it's already not bad to get second place. However, where did this kid come from? We have to investigate. I can't take this lying down. The Wang family head's face was gloomy. Wang family head, you mean? Lin Li raised his head slightly, and saw the murderous glint in the Wang family head's eyes. He definitely can't be left alive. It looks like he's on the Zhu family head side. The Zhu family head is my next opponent for the Deputy Pavilion Master position, and he even won this time. Just now, Pavilion Masterly favored that kid a lot. Since that's the case, he can't be left alive. The Wang family head's eyes were cold. Lin Li nodded. That's good. Such an opponent must be eliminated to prevent future troubles. After they left, Zhu Tianhong laughed and walked over. Did you see the Wang family head's face? It's already dark. This is the first time I've seen him suffer so much. It's really been hard on you this time. We just took what we needed. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently. He agreed to Zhu Tianhong's request because he wanted to take on Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan. I understand this, and I'm very satisfied with you this time. Zhu Tianhong raised his eyes and gestured for Attendant Lu and Attendant Huang to come over. The two of them walked over timidly with their heads lowered, and did not dare to raise their heads to look at Yi Tianyun. You two know what to do, right? Zhu Tianhong looked at them coldly and said. Although Deacon Huang and Deacon Lu were unwilling, they still stretched out their hands and gave themselves a few hard slaps. Their faces were swollen. I'm sorry, Master Yi. This is all our fault, we said the wrong thing, we were blind. They did not want to do this, but the Zhu family head had specially given the order, so they could only choose to obey. Tianyun looked at them coldly, and did not bother to stop them. In his opinion, it was just a trick to hurt themselves. Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan shook their heads, and did not say anything. They were just doing things for the Zhu family, and it was not too much of a mistake. All right, the matter has been helped, and they are no longer part of the Zhu family from now on. The kindness from before has been repaid today, Tianyun said in a low voice. Of course, I'm a man of my word. I will not make things difficult for them anymore. Zhu Tianhong smiled faintly and said, if it's possible in the future, I hope we can cooperate well. Any reward is negotiable. If there is such a chance. Tianyun's expression was indifferent, and it seemed that he would not continue to communicate with them too much. Zhu Tianhong shook his head and sighed inwardly. If it wasn't for some trouble, they would definitely be good partners. If they could become their guest elder, it would undoubtedly increase the strength of the Zhu family. Chapter 190. After Zhu Tianhong and Deacon Lu left, at the corner, Deacon Lu covered his mouth and said, Zhu clan head, are you going to let that kid go just like that? He is a 4th grade divine rune master. It would be a great loss if we let him go. Zhu Tianhong's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and gave him a slap. Puff. Deacon Lu was slapped away and a few of his teeth were broken. You still have the cheek to say that? Zhu Tianhong said coldly, if it wasn't for you, he would definitely be our guest. And you still want to force him? If you want to die, don't bring me along. A 4th grade divine rune master at such a young age, how can his background be simple? Maybe it has something to do with that mysterious expert. If he can destroy the Qingxian mansion, even if he can't destroy the Star Pavilion, at least he can destroy our Zhu clan, do you understand? Within the clan, Zhu Tianhong was completely focused on the clan. He could sacrifice anyone for the clan, but he was not willing to provoke others. Putting one's own safety before matters of principle was the best way to handle things. Deacon Lu climbed up. His whole body was trembling. He could only lower his head and not say a word. No matter what, at least this matter has been resolved. I hope that we can cooperate in the future. Zhu Tianhong shook his head and felt that it was a pity. The two of them followed a good man. When we first adopted them, they were originally intended to be servants. I didn't expect them to sacrifice so much for our Zhu clan. It's really hard for them. I can only blame myself for being too incompetent. He left with Deacon Lu. He did not want to stay here any longer. When they left, a figure appeared in the corner. This person was Tianyun. He just wanted to eavesdrop on them to see if they had any other thoughts. It seemed that Zhu Tianhong was a straightforward person, unlike some sinister people. He was ruthless enough to sacrifice anyone for the clan. Ding. Successfully completed the mission, become the top 3 in the Divine Rune competition, save the 2 sisters. Reward: 1 million experience points, 1 strengthened lottery roulette ticket, Divine Rune proficiency points increased by 50. Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan's favorability points increased by 100. Ding. Congratulations to player Tianyun. Your Divine Rune proficiency has been upgraded to Divine Rune Advanced Proficiency. The process was extremely smooth. Naturally, there wasn't any difficulty in leveling up from the intermediate level to the advanced level. However, the proficiency required for the next level was already at the level of 100,000. This was quite troublesome. There's still one chance to use the enhanced lottery roulette? I'll use it next time. Tianyun is more concerned about this. This is a lottery ticket worth 500,000 crazy points. Every time he gets something good, how can he not be tempted? After tidying up a little, he turned around and walked back to meet up with Zhu Yue and the rest. However, just as he turned around, he saw a familiar face walking towards him. Young master, we meet again. Thank you so much for your help earlier. If it wasn't for you, I would have failed my divine inscription. He Qianhan walked over and smiled. I almost forgot to introduce myself. This little girl is from heaven's top mansion, surnamed He, first named Qianhan. May I know your name? My name is Yi Tianyun, from the Jade sect. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and said, I just said a few words casually. It's an honor for Miss He to believe me. The most important thing is that you are strong enough, otherwise what I said would be useless. That's true, but I still have to thank young Master Yi. I didn't expect a second-grade faction to have a genius like young Master Yi. It's really unexpected. He Qianhan smiled and said, If possible, I wonder if young Master Yi has time to visit our heaven's top mansion? That's not necessary for the time being. I still have things to do. I'll visit your mansion later. Yi Tianyun smiled. All right, then I'll wait for young Master Yi at heaven's top mansion. Also, this is the referral token. When you go to heaven's top mansion, you can use this to find me. He Qianhan handed the referral token to Yi Tianyun, bowed slightly, then left with a smile on her face. When Yi Tianyun returned, Zhu Yue and Zhu Yuxuan were talking about something, and when he came back, they looked at him with a smile. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? What's on my face? Yi Tianyun reached out and touched his face. It seems like there's nothing on his face. Elder Yi, why don't we change our surname to Yi? Zhu Yue smiled and said, This? Yi Tianyun was stunned. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? We are orphans, we followed the Zhu family, that's why we changed our surname to Zhu. Now that we are with you, we are no longer part of the Zhu family, so we don't plan to change our surname to Zhu. Their expression is firm, they have already decided to change their surname to Yi Tianyun. That's up to you, I don't really care. Yi Tianyun really doesn't care about this, but if they insist, then he can't do anything about it. Well, I will be called Yi Yue from now on. Then I will be called Yi Yuxuan. From now on, both of us will listen to Elder Yi's orders. Elder Yi will decide everything. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Full of joy, they felt that this is finally a kind of relief. Okay. It's up to you. Yi Tianyun felt quite helpless, but he also smiled a little. After settling the two sisters, Yi Tianyun took the token to the general pavilion. He was going to exchange for the time to enter the heavens' spiritual jade pool. Because he will be busy later, he didn't know when he will come back to the general pavilion, so he just used it here. When he came to the general pavilion, the decoration and the scale of this place is really different from the branch. The decoration style is the same, but the scale is big enough, it is like a city. The whole area belongs to the Star Pavilion. Therefore, next to the competition square, there is actually a city called Star City. A city built by the Star Pavilion, it is more like a large sect. There is not much difference between this city and other cities. The biggest difference is that it is managed by the Star Pavilion. Arriving in front of the general pavilion, Yi Tianyun took the token and walked in. When the guards saw the token, their faces changed, and they immediately welcomed him. I am here to exchange for the reward. May I know where the heaven's spiritual jade pool is? Yi Tianyun asked. I'll have to let the elders bring you in. Please wait a moment. Then, the guards quickly went to find an elder. After a while, an elder walked over, looked him up and down, and his eyes showed some surprise. You are the winner? Although Yi Tianyun became famous in this competition, not everyone went to watch it. So many people didn't know his true identity. Yes, I am the winner, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. You are too young. The elder smiled and said, Compared to the rumors, you look much younger. Come with me, Pavilion Master Li has specially told us that if you come, we must treat you well, young Master Yi. Otherwise, we will be impolite. Yi Tianyun nodded. To be able to receive this kind of treatment, it was all because of his amazing strength. For example, Lin Li was given the cold shoulder. Chapter 191. Under the guidance of the elder, Yi Tianyun followed into the general pavilion, passed through a long corridor, and soon came to a special corridor. The environment here is obviously different from the outside. There are divine runes engraved around here, which can be used to fight against enemies. As for the effect, it needs to be studied carefully to know. But Tianyun has no interest in this, but he knows that this must be a very important place. The heavenly spiritual jade pond is in front. The elder took him to a gate not far away. There were 2 core condensation realm guards here. To be able to let a core condensation realm cultivator as a guard, this place can be regarded as a big deal. Elder Yun, what's the matter? The 2 guards asked. This is the Star Pavilion's Divine Rune Competition champion. He is here to exchange for the reward. Elder Yun took out the token and handed it over and said, "This is Pavilion Master Li's token, please check it. If you want to enter the heavenly spiritual jade pond, even Elder Yun can't enter at will. It shows how important this place is." The guard took the token. After checking it, he nodded and said, "Yes, this is indeed Pavilion Master Li's token. According to the reward rules, you can get 5 days inside." With that said, they pushed open the heavy door together. After opening a gap, a very rich spiritual power surged out from the inside, making Tianyun feel comfortable. This degree of concentration is too strong, much stronger than the outside. Compared to the heavens immersing ancient ruins spirit-gathering array, the difference is more than 10 times. When opening a gap that can accommodate 1 person, the guard urged, "Hurry up, we will open the door in 5 days and let you out. During this period, you can absorb as much as you want, it depends on your ability. But you can't touch the spirit herbs inside. If you pull them out, you will have to pay for them." Tianyun nodded. Without saying a word, he immediately rushed in. After entering, the guard quickly closed the door, preventing the spiritual energy inside from leaking out. This is the heavenly spiritual jade pond. After entering, the first thing that came into view was a lake. The lake was quite vast, and the surroundings were filled with flowers and grasses. However, these flowers and grasses were not ordinary flowers and grasses, but spiritual herbs. From the looks of it, there were high and low grades. The high grade had reached the 5th grade, but the low grade was no lower than the 4th grade. They were excellent materials for refining 4th grade elixirs. Apart from these, there was nothing else, and no one else was here. Such dense spiritual energy, this is completely a spirit spring. Tianyun looked over and his appraisal eye immediately revealed it. Heaven's spiritual jade pond. 5th grade spiritual vein spring, able to nurture 5th grade spiritual herbs. The spiritual force contained in it was extremely rich and suitable for cultivators within the spirit core stage to absorb. It had the effect of improving cultivation and strengthening spiritual force. 5 days? I can't waste it. Tianyun didn't waste any time and jumped into the heavens spiritual jade pool. The moment he jumped into the heavens spiritual jade pool, the rich spiritual energy in the surroundings rushed into his body. He didn't need to absorb it at all, it had already rushed into his body. 500 EXP. 300 EXP. 460 EXP. This was the constant flow of EXP. He didn't need to move at will to obtain this EXP. This meant that he could lie here and sleep, and when he woke up, he might have more than 1,000,000 EXP. Of course, he wouldn't waste it like this. Even if it was 1,000,000 EXP, it was still a pitiful amount for him. Let's start absorbing. Crazy mode activate. Tianyun didn't waste any time. He activated crazy mode and continued to absorb the spiritual energy. Under the effect of absorbing Star's great technique, a huge vortex was formed around him, sucking in the spiritual energy and absorbing it into his body. 32,000 EXP, 35,000 EXP, 34,000 EXP. Under the 8 times EXP mode, his EXP suddenly exploded. He had EXP cards, but he was reluctant to use them. After all, they were too little for him, unless he leveled up. If he wanted to upgrade the intermediate Dark North Divine Art to a high-grade Earth-level martial art, he still needed a lot of EXP. The Absorbing Star's great technique was not in a hurry to upgrade, But the Dark North Divine Art was the source of EXP. Absorbing stars' great technique was just a simple absorption, but it couldn't be converted into EXP. The Dark North Divine Art was the main way to gain EXP immediately. Tianyun didn't pay any attention to it. He was immersed in cultivation, and his EXP continued to increase. At the same time, the consumption of Crazy Point was also a lot. Under the 8 times mode, the consumption of Crazy Point is also a lot. Because of this, he didn't dare to use Crazy Point at will. This thing is difficult to earn, and the consumption is very fast. In a blink of an eye, he had been absorbing for a full day, and finally, a beautiful voice came. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun, successfully leveled up to 7th level Spirit Core. The whole process was quite difficult. He gave up the 8 times crazy mode later. After all, it was calculated in minutes, and the consumption was still very high. If he could continue, the EXP would be quite considerable. However, he still chose to stop after a long period of time. Otherwise, it would take a long time for him to level up. Finally leveled up, let me see how the situation of the Dark North Divine Art is. He checked the proficiency of the Dark North Divine Art and found that the proficiency of the Dark North Divine Art is still more than 7,000. Just more than 7,000, and he can upgrade the Dark North Divine Art to the next level. Continue to absorb. Tianyun immediately sank his heart and madly absorbed the Dark North Divine Art to increase the proficiency. Time passed in a blink of an eye, and when he checked again, he found that the proficiency is more than 3,000. In a day, only more than 3,000 proficiency. Isn't this a bit too much? This proficiency is not something that can be casually absorbed, but to absorb a certain amount, it can increase the corresponding proficiency. Otherwise, if I keep absorbing the outside sky, wouldn't I be able to level up? Forget it, time is running out. I'll just grit my teeth and buy a middle-grade Earth-level Dark North Divine Art. He opened the shop, and the middle-grade Earth-level Dark North Divine Art is lying in the shop, and the price is also quite eye-catching, 300,000 Crazy Point. Buy it. Tianyun gritted his teeth and chose to buy the middle-grade Earth-level Dark North Divine Art. It's not easy to have so much spiritual power here. He can't waste it. Soon, a middle-grade Earth-level martial art fell into the inventory, and he chose to integrate it. Ding! Successfully integrated Dark North Divine Art, gained 5,000 proficiency. Ding! Successfully upgraded Dark North Divine Art to high-grade Earth-level martial art, the absorption speed increased by 6 times. The next level requires 1 million proficiency. Chapter 192. After the upgrade of the Dark North Divine Art, it soared from the original 2 times to 6 times. The effect was quite amazing, a full 3 times increase. Immediately, he used all his strength and quickly absorbed. Originally, when he absorbed, a small vortex formed around him. Now it formed a huge vortex, and all the spiritual energy rushed into his body. 12,000 experience points, 13,000 experience points, 12,800 experience points. The throughput suddenly increased, reaching an unprecedented effect. However, Tianyun felt that it was not the limit, and the Dark North Divine Art could absorb more. The absorbing star's great technique can't keep up with the progress. The capacity of the Dark North Divine Art is too high, and the absorption speed is not as fast as the throughput of the Dark North Divine Art. Tianyun frowned, and then his eyes lit up. I almost forgot, didn't the Heaven-Devouring Divine Art drop before? That can enhance the effect. He immediately activated the Heaven-Devouring Divine Art. After activating it, he suddenly felt the surrounding spiritual power quickly sucking into his body. Suddenly, it was as if a whirlwind was blowing in the air, sweeping up the surrounding spiritual power, and then continuously pouring into his body. Originally, the Heaven-Devouring Divine Art was to absorb the surrounding power to enhance his own strength, but now he used it to extract spiritual energy. 23,000 experience points, 24,000 experience points, 22,000 experience points. All of a sudden, the experience soared by 10,000 experience points, and now the speed of absorption finally kept up with the absorption speed of the Dark North Divine Art. He did not need Crazy Mode at all to reach an amazing amount of experience. Crazy Mode activate. After activating the 8 times mode, the experience suddenly exploded. 180,000 experience points, 182,000 experience points, 183,000 experience points. Such a crazy EXP mode left him dumbfounded. As expected of the base increase, when it was doubled, the amount of EXP was naturally different. What are you waiting for? Let's make a fortune first. 20 times experience card, use. 10 times experience card, use. The only 2 experience cards he had were used, and the multiplier was suddenly stacked to 38 times experience value. 760,000 experience points, 770,000 experience points, 768,000 experience points. This experience was like a sudden clap of thunder, exploding in his ears. As the numbers increased crazily, he cried out in surprise. This was too awesome. Just this speed alone meant that leveling up would be much faster. Of course, the experience required wasn't low, but if he continued like this, he wouldn't have to worry about his level. At the same time that he felt comfortable, the spiritual power around him began to drain rapidly. It was being consumed much faster than before. This was the effect of the Dark North Divine Art. The absorption speed had increased, and it was much faster than when ordinary experts came in. The absorption was very crazy. Gradually, the liquid in the spirit vein became thinner, and then it was filled up by the rich liquid. However, based on the current situation, he would probably suck away more than half of the spirit vein. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. Finally, he heard a pleasant voice. Congratulations to player Tianyun for breaking through to level 8 Spirit Core stage. Finally, after 2 days, he successfully broke through to the 8th level Spirit Core stage. In the short span of 4 days, he had broken through 2 levels here, and it seemed that he could continue to advance. However, he didn't have any more experience cards to use. It would be too expensive to buy them. Finally leveled up, this speed is not bad. Tianyun was satisfied. If others knew about this, they would definitely vomit blood. Breaking through 2 levels in such a short period of time was not bad. If it was them, they wouldn't be able to break through 1 level in a few years, let alone 2 levels. Those who had reached level 8 or level 8 Spirit Core stage were all at least 40 or 50 years old. They were definitely geniuses. Under normal circumstances, most of them were above 80 or 90 years old, and some of them couldn't even reach that level in their lifetime. By the way, I still have one more lucky draw. If I get an experience card, I will use it here. He didn't have any experience card now, so if he got one from the lucky draw, it would be best to use it here. Immediately, he activated the lucky aura and the enhanced lucky roulette. It was no different from the previous roulette, and under his control, it began to spin quickly. The pointer kept pointing at the values on the roulette, and it was rolling crazily. He had calmed down. As for what he got, it was up to him. Soon, the pointer stopped and steadily fell on the special item. Gulp! A box fell into his inventory, causing him to be stunned. A special item, second only to a divine skill? He didn't expect to get such a special item. The special item he got before was the 100 transformation mask. Now that he had the enhanced lucky roulette, he didn't know what kind of special items he could get. Immediately, he opened the box and something appeared in front of him. Phoenix wings. Phoenix wings. Cannot be leveled up, decoration after equipping, can fly. If you can fly, your flying speed will be increased by 3 times. Good stuff. Tianyun was shocked. He didn't expect to get Phoenix wings. Even if he didn't reach core transformation stage, he could still fly. Even if he could fly after breaking through to core transformation stage, his flying speed would be increased by 3 times. In this way, I can fly and I can escape during normal times. With the help of teleportation, who can fight with me? Eteonyon smiled and walked to the side a few times. Suddenly, his feet slipped, and before he could react, he sank to the bottom of the water. When he sank to the bottom of the water, he wanted to get up, but he found that he had fallen into a tunnel and was sucked down by a torrent. After going around in circles, he felt that he was about to get dizzy, and he felt that he was being thrown out. After being thrown out, he felt that there was no pressure from the water around him, and he felt that his body was relaxed. After spinning a few times in the air, he quickly landed on the ground. He looked up and saw a secret chamber made of white jade. There was a jade door in front of him, and it looked very strange. What's going on? Eteonyon turned his head and looked behind him. He found that there was a hole that kept flowing out. Obviously, he came out from there. I need to turn off the lucky aura quickly. He was stunned, and immediately turned off the lucky aura. After turning off the lucky aura, his heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this lucky aura caused me to be so lucky that I was sent here? Chapter 193. Before Eteonyon could think about anything else, he found that the hole that he came out of had suddenly flowed back. This meant that if he wanted to come down from above, it would be very difficult to come down unless he forced his way in. It seems that it's really caused by the lucky aura. In the future, whenever I go to a special place, I have to activate the lucky aura to check. Eteonyon licked his lips. He didn't expect to find a secret room like this. It seemed that it was not simple. It was not surprising that there was such an amazing secret room under such a spiritual vein. It seemed that the Star Pavilion didn't know that there was a secret room here. If there was a secret room, it would have been heavily guarded. Looking around carefully, it was overgrown with weeds. It was obvious that no one had been here for a long time. I just got the phoenix wings and now I've entered such a good place. My luck is really good. Eteonyon grinned and put away the phoenix wings. This was a life-saving thing. Although he had the black dragon pet that could fly, what if the black dragon was stopped? The most important thing was speed. With the phoenix wings, his escape speed increased by 3 times. Unless it was a powerhouse with a much higher cultivation than him, it would be impossible to catch up with him. After putting it away, he looked around again. Although it was overgrown with weeds, there were also a lot of elixirs. It was the same here as the outside, full of spiritual power, so it was full of elixirs. He didn't stand on ceremony at all. Without hesitation, he put them all into his inventory. They were all a bunch of 4th and 5th grade elixirs. Of course, he couldn't miss them. After cleaning up, there was nothing around except for the jade door in front of him. When he came to the jade door, he knocked on the door gently and shouted symbolically, "Is anyone there?" After shouting, there was no other phenomenon except for his own echo. He raised his hand and pushed gently. The jade door opened without much effort. With a rumbling sound, the jade door opened to both sides. At the same time, a chill came from inside, causing him to narrow his eyes. He didn't know what was inside. Since he was here, he couldn't not go in and take a look, right? There won't be any traps inside, right? Eteonyon lifted his foot and walked in. As soon as he walked in, the surrounding jade stones immediately lit up. It was as if a lamp had been lit up, illuminating the entire passageway. There was not a single blind spot. Moreover, this light was much brighter than the night pearl, and it was not dazzling. Jade Spirit Stone. A highly concentrated spirit stone that contains 3 times the spiritual power of a normal spirit stone. That's a big deal. They actually used the Jade Spirit Stone to start this secret room? Eteonyon thought for a moment and felt relieved. This was one of the spiritual veins. It was not surprising that they could use the jade spirit stone to start this secret room. However, he did not intend to dismantle it. Only the heavens knew what was inside the wall. If there were any traps, then he would suffer a great loss. In the face of the unknown, it was best to maintain a respectful heart. If one was too greedy for everything, they would definitely die the fastest. As he went deeper, it didn't take him long to walk into a room. It was much colder here than outside, but it wasn't frozen. However, it was enough to add a layer of frost to his clothes. If an ordinary person was here, they would have already frozen to death. When he looked up, he saw a coffin in front of him. However, it was a crystal coffin. He only needed to look up to clearly see that there was a woman lying in the crystal coffin. Someone's here. Tianyun walked over. There was really a woman lying in the crystal coffin. She was extremely beautiful. There was even a touch of red on her fair face. She looked very good, as if she was lying in the crystal coffin and sleeping soundly. She was wearing a white dress. She was spread out in the crystal coffin. There were also white lotus flowers around her. After a little investigation, he found that these white lotus flowers were the relatively rare heavenly ice snow lotus. This was a 5th grade elixir. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult to find it. However, there were dozens of them spread out on the side. A faint fragrance floated from inside, making people feel a little tranquil. This woman looked like she was sleeping soundly, but in fact, she was already dead. Tianyun could not feel any signs of life from her body. She was really dead. However, he did not see any wounds on her body. I didn't expect it to be a dead person, Tianyun frowned. He did not expect to find a dead person here. However, this woman's body could be preserved very well. The spiritual energy here was very dense. It must be the central area of the spiritual vein. With such dense spiritual energy and the heavenly ice snow lotus, this woman's body could be preserved for a long time, unless the spiritual vein collapsed. Immediately, Tianyun closed his eyes. He put his hands together and bowed lightly. I didn't mean to intrude, please don't mind. He did not open the crystal coffin. Instead, he turned his head to look at other places. Although there was something good in the crystal coffin, he would not touch it. Some things were better left untouched. After walking one round, he saw a line of words on the wall in front of him. Snow lotus blooms, life is reborn. Snow lotus blooms, life is reborn. What does this mean? Tianyun frowned. He looked back and found that the heavenly ice snow lotus in the crystal coffin was indeed about to be opened. It was blooming slowly. Although it was slow, it was still blooming. These heavenly ice snow lotuses were not buried in the ground. They were just placed in the crystal coffin to bloom. This was strange. Could it be that when the heavenly ice snow lotus blooms, she will wake up? It can't be, it's that magical? Tianyun thought for a while. He felt that it was better to leave as soon as possible. Apart from the crystal coffin, there was nothing else here. Who knew what would happen if she woke up? I should leave quickly. It's good enough that I can come in and see. Just as he was about to leave, a soft murmur came from the crystal coffin. He turned his head to look at the crystal coffin as if he had seen a ghost. He saw that the beautiful woman was really about to wake up. Her eyelashes were trembling, as if she was about to wake up at any time. Should I leave or not? Tianyun's feet were nailed to the ground. He did not know if he should leave or not. She had already woken up. As long as there was no danger to him, there shouldn't be any big problems, right? Who knows, there might be some other opportunities. While he was thinking, the woman had already woken up. She slowly opened her eyes. Her light blue eyes were like gems that had reappeared in the sky, emitting a faint blue light. Then, she slowly pushed the crystal coffin open and sat up. Chapter 194. The woman stretched her body as if she had just woken up. Her aura was immediately restored, unlike before when she had no aura at all. She was like a living person. At this moment, the woman turned around and happened to see him. Their eyes met. Tianyun didn't know what to say. Immediately, the woman smiled. She looked quite beautiful, like a fairy descending to the world, with a bit of immortal chi. However, Tianyun was already immune to this. He just didn't know what to say. "Brother, you're here?" The woman smiled. "Brother, what brother?" Tianyun turned his head and looked behind him. There was no one behind him. He was the only one in the room. "Brother, what are you talking about? Aren't you my brother?" The woman climbed out of the crystal coffin and said with a smile, "Every time I wake up, you're the one guarding me." "What? I'm guarding you?" Tianyun said awkwardly. "I'm sorry, miss. I'm really not your brother. I'm just passing by. No one has been here for a long time. I don't know what's going on." "Brother, don't joke around. You're making me happy again." The woman jumped over. Perhaps she had slept for too long. Her body went limp and she fell towards him. Fortunately, Tianyun reacted quickly. He quickly supported the woman. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Brother, where are we going now?" The woman smiled. Her blue eyes met his. To Tianyun, it was like looking at a blue ocean. "Are we going home?" "Miss, I'm really not your brother. You've mistaken me for someone else." After helping her up, Tianyun let go to avoid any misunderstandings. "How is that possible? You are my brother." "Brother, you are making fun of me again." Just as she was about to continue speaking, she frowned and reached out to hold her head. "It hurts, my head hurts so much. Miss, are you okay?" Tianyun looked her up and down. He was too embarrassed to support her. After all, men and women shouldn't touch each other. If she found out that he wasn't her brother, wouldn't she chop him into pieces? Through the appraisal eye, Tianyun found out that Tianyun's cultivation was not low. Tianyun's cultivation had reached the 5th level of core transformation stage. This young man, who was not much older than him and about the same age as his aunt, was actually at the core transformation stage. You are not my brother." The woman clutched her head and said in pain. "Of course I'm not your brother. I said that from the beginning." Tianyun hurriedly said. Then who am I?" The woman frowned, clutching her head as she half knelt on the ground. It was as if the intense pain in her head was unbearable. "Miss you." Tianyun looked up and saw the heavenly ice snow lotus in the crystal coffin. He hurriedly took it out and then placed it on her head. Following that, a faint ice-cold aura flowed into her head. After that, the woman's condition slightly stabilized. It was obvious that she had just woken up and her memory was in a mess. "Thank you." The woman's condition slightly stabilized. She picked up the heavenly ice snow lotus and smelled it. Her condition had stabilized a lot. "I remember a little. I am Renjiro from, she frowned. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't remember. The more she thought about it, the more painful it was. "It's good that you can remember a little. You can think about the rest slowly." Tianyun comforted her. At least she could remember her name. If she didn't know anything, he really didn't know what to say. "Brother, my head hurts." Renjiro fell into his arms. She still felt the pain in her head. Just a moment ago, she clearly said that he was not her brother, and now it was happening again. Tianyun felt a little speechless. He picked her up again and placed her in the crystal coffin. "Lie down here for a while. You just woke up, so your memory is a bit messy." Renjiro nodded and lay down. She smelled the heavenly ice snow lotus. She felt a little better. Tianyun didn't go out. Instead, he chose to sit on the side. There was a spirit spring coming from the side. The design of this place was very ingenious. There were several canals dug around the room. This way, the spirit spring would cover the entire area, filling this place with dense spirit energy. He used this place to continue to absorb the spirit spring like crazy. He couldn't waste it. It was not easy to come in here for 5 days. How could he waste this time? This was a good opportunity to earn EXP. If he missed it, he didn't know when he would get another chance. This is a good place. I can't waste it. After I go out, I will ask how to come in here to absorb such a rich spirit spring. How could he miss such a huge amount of EXP? The effect of this spirit spring was relatively weak for core transformation stage cultivators, so it was suitable for spirit core stage cultivators to absorb. However, even if it was suitable for spirit core stage cultivators to absorb, they couldn't casually absorb it. If they absorbed it crazily, it would eventually dry up. Therefore, this place was strictly controlled by the Star Pavilion. Not everyone could come in. The number of days was also very strict. Under such circumstances, he kept a close eye on Renjiro's condition. Fortunately, Renjiro's condition was not as bad as before. She gradually stabilized and was not as painful as before. However, it was almost time. Almost 5 days had passed. When the time came, he would have to go out. He couldn't stay here forever, right? Fortunately, he didn't have to wait for too long. Renjiro climbed up again and said, "Brother, I am much better. When are we going back?" "Miss Ren, I am really not your brother," Itianyun explained many times. She still thought of him as her brother. "Big brother, you're making fun of me again," Renjiro said, taking his words as a joke. "Well, I am your brother." Itianyun was almost driven crazy. He could only nod and accept his fate. "Do you know where you will live?" "I don't remember where I will live." "Brother, don't you remember?" Renjiro was puzzled. "I don't know." Itianyun cursed in his heart. How would he know? He immediately stood up and said, "How would I remember? Time is almost up. Let's leave this place first." Renjiro nodded. Her condition was much better now. She climbed out of the crystal coffin easily. Under Itianyun's lead, they walked to the outermost exit. Just as they were about to leave through the exit, Renjiro asked, "Brother, aren't we going to leave from here?" She pointed to the pool over there, and looked at Itianyun in confusion. "We can leave from there?" Itianyun thought for a moment. He listened to Renjiro and jumped into the pool. They swam along the passage and soon reached the outermost exit. When they came out, they found that it was connected to a small pond. This small pond did not have any spiritual energy. It was a very ordinary pond. It was no wonder that no one had discovered this secret passage. This was a relatively remote place. In this way, won't I be able to go back and absorb spiritual power whenever I want? Itianyun was delighted. If this was the case, he didn't need to ask how to enter. He could go around and enter through this passage. Chapter 195. After Itianyun learned about the other channel, he was happy and decided to come back next time to absorb this spiritual vein. If he continues to absorb like this, it won't be a problem for him to break through to the peak of Spirit Core stage. Then he can use the upgrade tool to easily break through to the core transformation stage. He still had an item that he hadn't used yet, and it was effective for cultivators within the Spirit Core stage. He definitely won't use it immediately. He will wait until he is at the peak of Spirit Core stage. When he reaches a higher level, he will need more EXP, so the upgrade tool will undoubtedly be the most effective. The reward for fighting above his level is not bad, but the price he has to pay is also relatively high. You stay here for a while, I will come back to find you later. Don't run around, understand? Itianyun said. I know, brother. Renjiro nodded and didn't say that she would follow him. She chose a place to sit down and frowned as if she was thinking about something. She just woke up from a deep sleep and didn't know how long she slept, so it was normal for her to have some confusion in her memory. However, since the opponent can hurt a core transformation stage cultivator, she believes that the opponent is obviously more terrifying. After seeing that everything was fine, Itianyun jumped into the water and quickly swam back to the original place. Without hesitation, He rushed into the hole and was immediately sprayed out along with the spring water. In the blink of an eye, he was sprayed out of the water just like before. Because there was a lake outside, he didn't get sprayed out like before. Just as he came out, he heard someone calling him. "Young Master E, where are you? It's time, hurry up and come out of the water." Elder Yun shouted for him from above, and soon, he emerged from the water. "You finally came out, it's time, hurry up and go out." Elder Yun saw Yi Tianyun swim out of the water and was relieved. "Sorry, I was too engrossed in cultivation just now." Yi Tianyun casually found an excuse. "Young Master E, you have actually absorbed a lot. If you continue to absorb like this place will be sucked dry by you." Elder Yun's helpless tone was mixed with a hint of surprise. Yi Tianyun looked back and found that a lot of the spiritual power in this area had been sucked away. The whole lake had become thin, and it was almost like the water in a lake. If he continued to absorb it like this, he would definitely be sucked into an ordinary lake. "I didn't absorb much of this either." Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders. He felt that the amount here was not much. No wonder there was such a strict restriction. Moreover, this place had already been used up quite a bit in the past. Now that he had absorbed a bit of it, it was basically all gone. He did not know how long it would take for him to recover a little. The Heaven's spiritual jade pool isn't like before. It'll be gone after a while. Even so, your speed is a bit too fast. It looks like it's about to become clear, Elder Yun said with a sigh. Under Elder Yun's lead, they left this place. Soon after, the door was closed once again. "Elder Yun, what price do I have to pay to enter the Heaven's spiritual jade pool?" Yi Tianyun asked. "You still want to go in?" Elder Yun smiled and said, "But most cultivators like this kind of cultivation place, so the price is relatively high. Generally speaking, a mid-grade soul tool can be exchanged for 2 days, and a low-grade soul tool can only be exchanged for half a day. This price is still acceptable." Yi Tianyun could not refine a mid-grade soul tool, but it was not a problem for him to refine a low-grade soul tool. He just needed to throw 10 of them over, and they would be able to enter the Heaven's spiritual jade pool to absorb. The price is indeed not very expensive, but the spiritual power inside is limited. Can only last for 10 days at most. Elder Yun said helplessly, "The recovery speed is much slower than before. If we want to restore the normal amount, it will take a few months." It seems that the situation in the Heaven's spiritual jade pool is not good anymore. Yi Tianyun shook his head. It seemed that even if he found another entrance, he would not be able to absorb it for too long. The only valuable thing was that secret chamber, which was built with spiritual jade stones. He believed that the experience points contained in it would not be too little. Yes, otherwise the restrictions would not be so strict. Without special contributions, you really can't go in. Elder Yun smiled and said, "Therefore, young Master E can stay in there for 5 days. This is already a very big reward. The others are very envious." Yi Tianyun nodded his head. This reward for the first place was really good, much better than the other rewards. "Oh, by the way, Pavilion Master Li told me to give this to you after you come out." Elder Yun took out a token and handed it over, saying, "This is the guest token. He hopes that you can become the Star Pavilion's guest token. You don't need to do anything." Yi Tianyun pondered for a moment and immediately accepted. "Well, I will be the guest token." Although he did not have a good impression of the Zhu family, the situation of the General Pavilion here was not bad. At least they treated him well. It was not a problem to make friends with them. After all, in the heavenly boundary continent, the Star Pavilion's status was not low. "Guest E, welcome to our Star Pavilion." Elder Yun congratulated. "From now on, you are our Star Pavilion's youngest guest token. That is really my honor." Yi Tianyun smiled. This was not unexpected. At his age, there were not many divine runes that could be compared to him. It was normal to become the youngest guest token. Pavilion Master Li also said that if you are willing to become a guest token, you can stay here to attend the VIP banquet. How about it? Elder Yun said with a smile. I am sorry, I still have things to do. Tianyun said apologetically. Well, in that case, I will not disturb you anymore. If it's possible, you can participate after a period of time, probably in the next month. Elder Yun smiled and said, This is a very grand VIP banquet. It is hosted by several third-grade forces. I heard that the Netherworld Empire will also come. This is a rare opportunity, so if Guest E has nothing to do, please try to attend. Netherworld Empire? Tianyun squinted his eyes. This is an extremely domineering empire. He even came to attend this VIP dinner. This is a bit interesting. Yes, the Netherworld Empire sent a minister. It seems that he has something important to announce. Elder Yun thought for a moment, then smiled and said, So if Guest E can come, it will be a pity if he can't. Chapter 196. After saying goodbye, Tianyun quickly returned to the bamboo forest. When he saw Renjiro still sitting there, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he looked up, he saw two strong men lying on the ground in the distance. It seemed that they were seriously injured. What the hell happened? Tianyun asked. Brother, those two people came and wanted to take me away. They said that I was lost and wanted to take me to his house. Renjiro clenched her fists when she saw Tianyun. I said no, they wanted to take me away. So I fought back and they became like this. Did I do something wrong? She revealed a pitiful and delicate look. It was really pitiful. Who would have thought that under such a pitiful expression, she was actually at the 5th layer of core transformation stage. They met some hooligans. Tianyun expressed his sympathy for the two men. Why did they come to Renjiro? This place was indeed a bit remote. The two hooligans must have been attracted by her beauty and wanted to take her home by force. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a tragedy? Anyway, let's go back first. Tianyun nodded at her and led her to the place where Iyue and Tianyun were staying. He had told them in advance that he would come to the Star Pavilion to get the reward and cultivate in the celestial spiritual jade pool for 5 days. Now that they were going back, they were going to be accompanied by one more person. Did you think of anything? Tianyun asked casually. I don't think I can think of anything. Renjiro tilted her head and frowned, but she still couldn't think of anything. Don't worry, take your time. Tianyun felt helpless and could only continue to lead Renjiro away. When he returned to the place where they were staying, he found that something was wrong. He couldn't feel the breath of Iyue and Iyuxuan. His heart sank and he quickly ran to their place. As soon as he arrived, he saw that their place was in a mess. The door was smashed and there were obvious signs of a fight. His face immediately darkened and became quite unsightly. He glanced at the place. It was obvious that some martial artist had broken in and taken everyone away. He looked down and saw a line of words carved on the ground. If you want to save someone, come to MT Falling Rain alone. There was no signature or too much information, but he had already thought of a few candidates in his mind. Currently, the ones who had some enmity with him were none other than Lin Li and Patriarch Wang. Patriarch Wang, Lin Li. Tianyun's gaze was cold, and his tone was sinister. If anything happens to them, I will bury your entire Wang clan with them. He was completely infuriated. The person who could capture Iyue and the rest by any means necessary was undoubtedly Lin Li. Besides him, no one else would be so resentful to actually choose to capture Iyue and the others to threaten him. Looking at the traces of fighting, it was clear that they hadn't left for too long, which meant that nothing would have happened. Brother, what's wrong? Renjiro saw the cold look on Tianyun's face. I'm going to kill someone. Are you coming? Tianyun asked in a low voice. Yes. Brother, wherever you want to go, I will go. Renjiro smiled. All right, let's go now. After that, He equipped the phoenix wings and flew high into the air with Renjiro in tow. He flew swiftly towards MT falling rain, and his speed instantly soared to the limit. In order to save Iyue and the others, he could not afford to waste any time. Moreover, there was no one around, and no one would notice what was happening here. Tianyun flew to a remote corner of MT falling rain as fast as he could, then quickly landed and retracted the phoenix wings. After he came down, his powerful mind power immediately enveloped the entire mountain. In his fury, his mind power was completely unleashed and thoroughly explored every corner of the falling rain mountain. Soon, he easily found the captured Iyue and the others. They were all trapped in a cave, and there were 3 people guarding them. Naturally, Tianyun knew one of them. It was Linli. Even if he turned into ashes, Tianyun would still recognize Linli. After locking on to the area, he quickly rushed over. Just as he reached the entrance of the cave, he heard cries coming from inside. "Try moving again? So annoying, I really want to slap them to death." Wang Shui was quite dissatisfied. "Let's wait for that kid to come. After we finish him off, you can do whatever you want with these people." Lin Li's voice came from inside. "Young Master Lin, that kid's cultivation is so weak. You think too highly of him if you do it yourself. Don't you think you're overestimating him by asking us to help?" Wang Qing's tone was quite disdainful. He felt that one person was more than enough to deal with Tianyun. "I suspect that the kid has helpers. I believe that a kid who can reach such a level must have guards with him." Linli was quite cautious, but he was also quite angry. "That kid has helpers? No matter what, we'll stay here and catch all his people. I don't believe that he won't come." Wang Shui snorted coldly. "What do you want to do to Elder Yi?" Iyue's cold voice came. "Hey, what do you think we're going to do to him? Oh, he's an elder. Such a young elder, but he's going to die in our hands soon." Wang Qing laughed sinisterly. "That kid is quite lucky with women. These 2 are the flowers of the Zhu family. We're not from the Zhu family for a long time. Our surname is Yi." Iyue and the others corrected them, and then said coldly, "Elder Yi won't come, so all of you should just give up on this idea. Kill or torture, do as you wish." Iyue's tone was firm. She would not choose to compromise. "If he doesn't come, then I'll enjoy the taste of the woman he likes." Lin Li's voice was cold. He had already reached the end of his patience with Tianyun. Since he could not deal with him openly, he could only play dirty trick. Iyue and the others' faces instantly turned pale. Thinking that they were going to be tainted, they might as well just die. "Is that so? I'd like to see if you have the life to enjoy it." Tianyun's figure flashed in silently from outside. This gave them a shock. It was too sudden, and they did not sense it at all. "Elder Yi." When Iyue saw Tianyun, she was surprised and worried at the same time. They could see that the 3 of them had strong cultivation. Tianyun looked up and saw that Ming Yi, Iyue and the others were completely tied up except for some bruises on their arms. Other than that, they were all fine. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. However, the words of Lin Li and the others made him furious. They were indeed brothers. They were all the same, a bunch of scum. "You came so fast. Don't tell me you brought help this time? If you did, don't blame us for being rude." Wang Shui chuckled. He took out a dagger and waved it at Iyue and the others' faces. This meant that if Tianyun moved, he would stab them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.